Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. We'll be looking ahead to Gameweek 14 because there's such a quick turnaround already, and I'll be discussing Gameweek 13 so far. It's only a small red arrow for me at this moment in time. Chris Wood and Gabriel have pretty much saved me from oblivion, but not buying Saka last week has not only cost me the 13 points he got against Nottingham Forest and the 18 against West Ham, but I took a -4 hit to buy Isak and Bruno Fernandes, so essentially I am down 30 to 40 points from those transfers last week, and I've already made early transfers during the Arsenal-West Ham game. Don't do this, kids. And I'm saying kids, even though I'm probably younger than a lot of people watching. But anyway, you get my drift. FPL can be an absolute nightmare. Just buckle in, enjoy the ride, because with the quick turnarounds, the amount of injuries, suspensions, and drama is going to be tenfold. So just have your popcorn ready, enjoy yourselves, and don't let the stress get to you. But Bukayo Saka has been rage transferred in, and when he went down in the second half, I was thinking, yeah, I've jinxed him already. And just to preface this, my last 7-8 transfers in FPL and UCL Fantasy have been disastrous. They've all blanked, Isak got injured, and I've also sold players who've done fairly well, especially in the case of Guirassy in UCL Fantasy, who came off the bench and outscored all my transfers in there. But we'll talk about that in UCL Fantasy the week after this one. Keep your eyes peeled for the content. And of course, during the deadline stream yesterday, we did hit 35 subscribers. So thank you very much for all your support. That's another big milestone ticked off. And going into 2025, we'll be seeing more goals. And of course, the growth since the summer has been very impressive. I've been very happy with it. But let's keep on pushing. And let's get this video, for example, to 200 likes. But let's get straight into your questions and comments as always. And Man City is finished. You've changed it. I like it. Salah captaincy better than Saka captaincy, they say. Well, let's see if Salah can somehow, do a madness, but it's very difficult to see him get more than 18 points. So I think those that captain Saka, fair play. I just wish I had him in my bloody team. He's destroyed West Ham in the past with that brace and the 6-0 win. Arsenal have done it again, although I think West Ham with those 2 quick goals, they kind of made it a bit more respectable. But a 5-2 victory for the Gunners. They're back on track and they're putting the pressure on Liverpool. They're the kind of 2 favourites in this title race at the moment. But my advice is do not discount Man City. Even without Rodri and their current form, they are still in it, in my opinion. But Man City's finished also says, Saka, Gabriel carrying me. Had like 8 points before the Arsenal game, thinking about selling Cunha for Havertz in 17. There will be a time where Cunha is sellable because Wolves have a terrible fixture run in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, just enjoy Cunha. It's good to plan ahead, but you might feel you have different kind of fires to put out or maybe bigger upgrades elsewhere. So that's definitely a good idea. But there's also other forwards to consider. Isak if he's fit, Ollie Watkins, and I think Jackson right now is kind of the standout mid to premium midfielder. Should I say mid-price to premium midfielder forward. Jesus Christ, my head's on Mars. Easy99 says 24 points with 5 players to go. Haaland, Palmer, Basuma, Salah, Gvardiol. Yeah, not trying to be a smart ass, and maybe I've jinxed it, but don't expect much from Basuma, who has sometimes popped up with the odd goal and bonus points. But Palmer, Salah, and maybe Haaland, I think those 3 could certainly deliver for you and propel you to, let's say, 40 plus points. I wouldn't be surprised if your points doubled with your remaining players. FPL Kevy says, can't believe it, mate. Captain Saka and have Gabriel at the back. Not much else to say. Fair play, mate. I wish I had done the same thing with Saka. I'm an Arsenal fan, of course. If you do watch this channel, you'll know it. And obviously, I put Arsenal first and foremost. I always say this. I'd rather Arsenal win than get FPL points, but I was a bit gutted because I've sold Saka on a few occasions this season, and because of that orange flag against Liverpool back in Gameweek 9, I sold him. He got 9 points. My short-term punt for Phil Foden didn't work. Then I buy Bruno Fernandes, and unless he does something against Everton tomorrow, that would have been another flop. And as mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I'm 30, 40 points down because of that -4 hit. Isak's injured as well, just to make things even better. Nice one, Sudindra. Saka captain, fair play. What a performance, and I got 2 free transfers. I wish I had 2 free transfers. If you also watched the deadline stream yesterday, you would have seen I bought Veltman. What a completely unnecessary transfer, and it basically pushed me to a -4 hit in Gameweek 14. So, yeah, it's not disastrous in terms of my rank because, like I said, it's a small red arrow. However, it's, not looking good. It could have been much better if I had just bought Saka a couple of weeks ago or not sold him. That would have been even better, actually. As for a Bournemouth defender, not really too impressed by that. Kirkes will be the best of a bad bunch. I don't see many clean sheets for them. I think a Chelsea defender would be the priority right now, so Cole will. Maybe tomorrow, once we see who starts, instead of Kanate, Joe Gomez or Kwanzaa, that could be a nice entry point. And I think Joe Gomez will probably come out on top. top 1 million, here I come. Enjoy it, and yeah, it's about time that you go to that sort of rank. I think you're a bit unlucky this season, so definitely enjoy Game Week 13. Plus, I got Worcester in my team. Is it worth selling Mbeumo or keeping him? I've always said this with Brentford assets. Once we get to Game Week 14, there will be this kind of push towards selling all of them, but I think you could definitely keep one. And ever since Worcester's been back in the team, he's been the better FPL asset than Mbeumo. I have mentioned this before, but I don't really regret what I said in my Transfer Tips podcast about holding Mbeumo for Leicester. I mean, Brentford won 4-1. Nobody expected Mbeumo to blank under those circumstances. Captaining Palm in Game Week 14, that's also my current plan. Saka is kind of the most in-form midfielder, bar Salah, so those two would certainly entertain some captainers, but I think Palmer has the best fixture. 47 with Salah captain, Palmer and Solanke to play. It's looking good. I think you'll get 60 plus. My -4 for Saka paid off. Yeah, I think a lot of people would have bought Saka either last week or this week, and yeah, very good timing. Arsenal getting back into the groove. Dylan, I'm going to buy merch after this Arsenal win. I wouldn't go that far because ultimately I'm not trying to be, how do I say this, a sport brat or something like that, but I mean, Arsenal just need to win stuff now, so I'm not buying any merch until they get the job done. Maybe that'll be never. I'm probably going to buy merch anyway. -4, 5 points so far. I mean, I'm guessing you have some very good players in there. You probably have Isak and a few other, like, very unfortunate picks there. So, look, it's a terrible game week for some people right now. For me, it's kind of underwhelming and disappointing and frustrating, but I do recognise that some people out there are actually doing really poorly. Imagine if Arsenal had a clean sheet. Yeah, I was a bit frustrated about that too. At least if they, had that double up in Gabriel and Raya. Of course, Gabriel being subbed off for half-time. At least he did get a goal and an assist. I mean, who would have expected that? 25 points. Yeah, look, it's not great, but it could be worse. It's a very awkward week. 32 points, once again. I mean, I don't think that's terrible. Not ideal. Captain Mbeumo. Yeah, I mean, that's one kind of saving grace for me. I've got Salah tomorrow, and we'll see how he does. I think he'll score against City. But, yeah, I mean, it's just really Palmer and Fernandes. I think they could do relatively well. But very disappointing stuff, especially from my front line. Of course, Chris Wood carried my team alongside Gabriel, but the rest, very, very poor. Is Mbeumo a sell? Seems too wide and getting marked out of the games. I think he is more of a sell than a hold for Game Week 14, and I did say this very recently, but no matter what people did, I would have recommended keeping him against Leicester, and I don't really regret saying that. But the thing is, I could see him having joy against Aston Villa and maybe Newcastle. Would I do Mbeumo to Bowen? Yeah, and of course, if you've got the funds to go Saka, there is no doubt in my mind that is the best move for your team. But otherwise, I'd maybe hold him, actually. 10 points with 6 to go. Yeah, look, it's not great. Hopefully you can... well, to be fair, 6 to go is... it looks terrible right now, but it could actually be pretty decent. Any news on Isak injury? Not really. I'll have a look now again and see if I can find a comment, but I've sold Isak. Just to be transparent, I've made a -4 hit already. During the Arsenal-West Ham game, you can probably guess what I did. Yeah, I rage transferred Saka in, and I'll talk about that in the team selection. There's such a quick turnaround, and unfortunately, I might need to record a video tonight, either the wildcard or transfer tips, most likely be the wildcard, and then hopefully I can record some stuff once all the games are done. But yeah, with a quick turnaround and my hectic schedule right now, it's going to be a bit of a pain. But let's see with Isak, and is there anything about him? Isak injury? No. Hopefully we can find a comment by Eddie Howe, although he's not the most reliable. It's kind of typical, right, with Isak. Whenever Callum Wilson's back, Isak ends up being injured. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just seeing some reports and kind of like guesses about his injury. I've sold him anyway, and I'll probably end up regretting it, like I've regretted a lot of decisions this season. 43 points with Captain Saka and 6 left to play. Yeah, that's a very strong position to be in. A lot of 40 points out there, and I'm guessing the majority of you would have had Saka. If Jackson gets 1 more yellow, is he on suspension? Yeah, anybody on 4 yellow cards, just like Semenyo this week, will miss a Premier League match. But if he can go unscathed until Game Week 20, the yellow card threshold will increase to 10. So that's what you're kind of hoping for as a Jackson owner. Bought in Saka for McNeil and Wood for Haaland. You bought Wood for Haaland? Wow. I mean, great transfer for this week, but I do think Chris Wood is arguably more of a sell in Game Week 14 onwards, but enjoy the points. I mean, that's the most important thing, right? How bad is it that I took a -4 for Cunha replacing Strand Larsen? Very bad timing. You're very unfortunate with it. I don't really blame you. I did say it's worth a -4 hit to make that switch, and I do think Cunha is worth the extra million. I still believe that, but this was the week for Strand Larsen owners, and fair play to those that had him. Best Isak replacement? Ideally, it'd be Jackson, but with the yellow card lingering over him, you might want to just go for either Cunha or Joao Pedro. So I'm going to stick with the same front three, really, that I've been discussing in my recent wildcard videos. Yeah, once again, with Isak's injury, I can't tell you how severe it is. I think he'll be available fairly soon, but I've sold him, so I'm not really too interested in him anymore. Is Nico Jackson a better option than Pedro this week? Yes, there is a small chance that Chelsea rotate a little bit against Southampton, but they do go really weak, so to speak. They go over their second team in the Europa Conference League, and they kind of put all their focus on the Premier League, and they have a good chance of finishing 4th this season. If they win tomorrow, they could go to 2nd. So, yeah, of course, they're facing Aston Villa tomorrow, but I do think Jackson will start against Southampton. At the moment, I'll say yes, but let's see if he gets yellow carded against Villa tomorrow, which will pretty much put an end to those hopes. Isak out, all that remains is a Jackson yellow, and I'm done. Yeah, not ideal though, but I'd still keep Jackson long term. And yeah, I think if he does get yellow carded against Villa and he misses Southampton, I'd be very interested in buying him in Gameweek 16, actually. Mbeumo to Saka, free transfer, and Isak to Evanilson -4. Yeah, good transfers. I do prefer Joao Pedro Cunha than Evanilson, but he's a very good move. If you've got the funds, though, and I know he's a risk, I think Jackson could be even better. I'm guessing you don't have those funds, though, and ultimately, they're good transfers. I'd do them, yeah. I would have sold Chris Wood if it wasn't for Isak's injury. That's the reason why I held off Saka this week, because the only way, or to be fair, yeah, the only way I could really get Saka was to sell Fernandes against Everton, and I thought Fernandes could outscore Saka this week, and I'm very wrong, unless Bruno does a madness tomorrow. But yeah, with Chris Wood, I think I'm going to keep him for now, but he will be on the bench. Who are good replacements for Mbeumo and Wood? Jeroboam for Mbeumo. Mitoma's a decent one. I talked about him yesterday a lot before the game against Southampton. If you are looking for that kind of cheap midfielder at 6.4 million and below, I think Mitoma's the best one right now. But I do prefer Bowen. And as for Chris Wood, either Joao Pedro or Cunha. I haven't really changed my mind about that. Sell Isak or Wood? I've sold Isak personally just because of the injury, and it's a very easy way to get Saka. I could have sold Chris Wood to Joao Pedro too, for example, and bought Saka for Fernandes, but yeah, I would have been left with nothing in the bank. I already have Cunha and Joao Pedro. Yeah, fair enough. If you got the funds, I think Jackson's better than Evanilson, but it's up to you. FPL is not always about which player you want, but the performances and luck. Timing is very crucial in FPL, so I've had some very good picks this season, but at the wrong times. You know, Isak, for example, Bukayo Saka, I had him earlier this season, sold him a few times, and maybe I made a mistake there, and I'm the first to recognize it, but you need a bit of luck sometimes, and also you need to be very, I think, definitive about your choices as well. Opinions on Kai's differential? Yeah, I mean, he's good. I mean, I've always marked him as a good option up front, but I do prefer Saka. My favourite way of covering Arsenal is a double up defensively, so that could be Raya and Gabriel, and then Saka in the midfield. I also like Jiri and Timber. Kai Havertz would be like 4th or 5th in that sort of list. But then when I'm looking at other forwards, Ollie Watkins, Jackson, Isak when he's fit, I think those three are slightly better. I think Jackson's the standout right now, by the way. And then you've got Joao Pedro and Cunha, who offer much better value. But Kai Havertz is still a good option up front, so I don't really mind him. 3 players are suspended for Southampton, by the way, so Palmer captain is pretty good for Gameweek 14. On paper it is, but yeah, sometimes you get these huge surprises. Palmer has been out of form goals and assists-wise recently, but he is my current bus captain, and I'll talk about that in the team selection. This is the kind of week Salah blanks and humbles you. Well, for me personally, I don't mind if Salah blanks. I've always said this, my plan to buy Salah is to either jinx him or get some points either way, I don't really care. And yeah, I've never really bragged about Salah personally, but I do think he's a much better option than Haaland right now. Should I take a hit to bring Saka in for Mbeumo? I'd say so, but just for those that are maybe not aware, Mbeumo scored in a 3-3 draw between Brentford and Aston Villa last time out, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. Villa are poor defensively. Our -4 is really worth it. Depends on the context, but they can be. Especially in FPL where it's a long season, and if it doesn't immediately pay off, like Isak and Fernandes for me, there's still an opportunity for them to deliver in the future. But yeah, I think hits can be worth it. So if you do, I mean, some people would have done Fernandes to Saka for a hit this week, and look how that paid off, or even Foden. Is Saka overperforming his stats right now, or just back to the mean? I think, well, there is a slight degree of overperformance. I do think the first Arsenal penalty wasn't a penalty. It shouldn't have been given. The same like the West Ham goal from the free kick, which was an excellent one, by the way, but it was never a free kick. I do think Saka is a consistent FPL option, and I've always said that. But in terms of the high ceiling, and to be fair, this season he has done it many times, but you'd still fancy Salah or Palmer in most game weeks for the captaincy. Plans to sell Mbumo? Not right now. I've taken a -4 here, and Mbumo stays in my team for another day. I actually don't mind Mbumo against Villa, but it's a huge disappointment to see him blank when Brentford score 4. Villa have conceded 1 goal in 5 Champions League games. Yeah, but what about the Premier League, mate? I mean, they're winless in so long in all competitions, and how many clean sheets do they have in this competition? Like 2 or 3? So I get what you're saying. Villa have been decent in the Champions League, but even in that competition, they haven't won in the last 2 matches. Jackson and Matoma or Bowen and Cunha? Bowen and Cunha for me, but it's a very good question. Who's the best goalkeeper? Still the same for me, either Sanchez or Verbruggen. Right now, going into Southampton away, you'd probably favour Robert Sanchez. Saka is overperforming slightly. West Ham came in quite overconfident. Maybe you're right. I'm not sure if West Ham were overconfident. I just think Arsenal know a way of beating them quite consistently. They beat them 6-0 back in February, following 2 victories for West Ham last season. But I think Arsenal found that formula. There's such a threat from set pieces, and Saka was excellent today. You know, he was on his game, but he is overperforming. I do definitely agree with the first part of your statement, but I don't think West Ham were overconfident. Mbumo and Isak to Saka and Joao Pedro for -4. I've done something very similar. Ultimately, I'd say yes, but my advice would still be to keep Mbumo. That's kind of the way I feel. He was pretty awful today, at least relatively speaking, when you compare him to Schade and Wissa. But I think Mbumo is worth keeping against Villa. I think he'll get something. Yep, that's been covered, don't worry. I think Palmer is an excellent choice for the captaincy. I captained Joao Pedro. He was right up there in my captaincy list. I've still bought him, by the way, for game week, for the next game week. So I'm happy that he blanked and people will be put off him. I'm still very bullish on Joao Pedro. Yeah, Justin Kluivert and Schade. I doubt many people would own both of them at the same time. But yeah, there must be someone out there. Are they going to do well this season? Maybe, maybe not. Best Game Week 14 wildcard team. I'm just sorry, I'm gonna burst your bubble here. I'm gonna do that in a separate video. The best wildcard team. I'll have more time to think about it, and also I'll probably record it tonight or tomorrow morning and release it quite early. But yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. Within the next few days, I'll try to have the best wildcard team, transfer tips, and team selection. We'll start with Bowen. His stats isn't decent, and even today he was mediocre. Great fixtures, mate. Great fixtures, and I think Bowen is fairly consistent. Very unlucky not to get the assist against Tottenham. That was an FPL assist by definition. And he's always up there. I think he'll go on a decent run. And against Leicester, I'd back any winger or attacker there. So I think Kudus, who's back from suspension, and Bowen are decent acquisitions now. Best defenders, pretty much what I said yesterday in the best wildcard team video a couple of days ago as well. So I'd still be looking at a Brighton option. So Van Hecke or possibly a Stupinian, but I think Van Hecke is the safest option. Let's see if Veltman is available now. Colwill, Gabriel, Timber, but let's see how serious the injury to Gabriel is. That's 2 games in a row that he subbed off early. One of Joe Gomez or Quansah, and I do think Joe Gomez will start instead of Konate now due to the injury. Those are some options that I'd consider, even Lewis Hall and Ray and Nuri. Best 4-point family and or below midfielder, that doesn't really exist, mate. None of them are going to offer great value. Maybe Harry Winks. Dibbling is the best at a similar price, but he's more expensive than that. Konate is out between 5 to 6 weeks, and I did cover this yesterday in the deadline stream. Bowen or Mbumo? If I'm buying one right now, it'd be Bowen. Mbumo to Saka, Bowen, or do only one of those? I'd personally just do Bruno to... I'd probably still Saka because he's a set and forget option. With Bowen, that's more of a punt. I do think this week, though, Bowen against Leicester could be excellent. I really think that. He wasn't that impressive today against Arsenal, quite anonymous. But I am backing Bowen to deliver very well against Leicester. If I was in a stronger position, if I didn't sell Saka, or if I just bought him in last week, I'd actually be very tempted to do Mbeumo to Bone myself, but the best transfer for you right now, in my opinion, is just buy Saka for Fernandes. I'm not selling Mbeumo right now. I've already made my transfers. I don't recommend making early transfers, but I made raid transfers there, so it's done. Yeah, Virgil's good. He's still up there for me. Will Liverpool struggle with their more difficult fixtures? Perhaps they will, and without Konate, but I think Virgil van Dijk is fine. I did mention Joe Gomez as a cheaper alternative if he starts tomorrow. Palmer 5 goals and 1 assist. Not happening, mate. I mean, I hope it does for my FPL team, but I also wouldn't mind Chelsea dropping points. Sell Haaland, I still think he is a sell, but it's not like you must do it. You can perform well in FPL without certain players, even Salah, and the same goes for having Haaland and Palmer and Salah in the same team. But it's all about balance and finding an approach that really suits you. I'd personally sell Haaland. I did it a few weeks ago, and I've gone up in rank ever since, but of course this week has been a bit awkward. I've captained Pedro and bench Gabriel. I'm fuming. Yeah, look, you can't have it all your own way, but I believe you're in a good rank, so don't worry about it. Thank you, Schluber. As he says, hit the like button. It costs nothing and supports the channel. Let's get this stream to over 200 likes. We actually reached 35 subscribers yesterday, and we'll be looking to get to new goals in the future. But of course, one step at a time. We'll enjoy the moment for now, and we'll see what more goals we can hit. Maybe not by the end of the year. I think that'll be asking for a lot, but going into 2025, there is a lot more to achieve. I think Mbeumo is a hold in most cases because some people might not have Saka. I'd recommend buying him first. Now, if you've got the money to do Mbeumo to Saka, go for it. You know, I'm not going to stop you. But if you've also got Bruno Fernandes like myself or Foden, you might have a few injuries at the back. I think there could be other fires to put out first. I think Mbeumo is a hold against Villa. That is my personal opinion. I understand why people may disagree. I'll be showing the FDR very soon. Don't worry about that, Punjabi. Would a keep over Isak? Well, I sold Isak just to, you know, kind of spoil my team selection a little bit. It also gives me extra funds. Isak could be out against Liverpool, and look, he might be back for game week 15 or 16, but yeah, I got rid of it, and I basically undone my transfers from last week. If it wasn't for the injury, I would have said sell Chris Wood, and that's something I've said for several weeks now, but things change very quickly. Game week 14 captain, it's currently on Palmer. That's my thinking. Best fixture. Southampton are missing several key players, and they're there for the taking. I think Chelsea will score 3 or 4 goals at St. Mary's. Better option, Rodgers or Semenyo. I still prefer Rodgers a little bit more, but I've got Semenyo myself, and I'll be keeping him. Who are the priority sells for your team? I'm basically going to sell Isak and Fernandes. I've already done it, so I'll talk about that in the team selection, but that basically is the answer. It's not ideal, though. I bought Veltman in game week 13 in the deadline stream yesterday unnecessarily. He's yellow flagged. I don't know when he's going to return. Gabriel is also an injury doubt again. My defensive line could maybe survive in game week 14, but afterwards it's going to be very dismal. And of course, Chris Wood against City. Not the worst, I guess. He'll probably be on my bench, but yeah, it's not an ideal situation for my team to be in. And I have to say again, you know, if I bought Saka last week and I didn't buy Fernandes and Isak for a hit, I would have been 30, 40 points up, and that's the big frustration for me. Wissa, Evanilson or Strand Larsen? Evanilson, if you're buying one right now. He's got the best fixtures, at least compared to Wissa, and despite Strand Larsen being a good option, and I've always said this, I think Cunha is even better. Yeah, Kudus could be a shout. He was entering some form. He scored against Ipswich, then Tottenham, and of course got the red card, but I'm not against that. I personally would go for Bowen, but they're both good choices against Leicester. Hope Salah gets 2 goals, 1 assist tomorrow. From an FPL perspective, I'd agree with you, but if I had to choose between that or City getting a draw or win, I'm going to take the City result, to be honest. Thanks for the suggestion on not taking hit for Larsen to Isak. Okay, I don't remember that particular scenario, but I'm glad I gave one piece of decent advice, because in other scenarios, I think I said I'd take the hit for Larsen to Cunha. You know, I still think that'll pay off long term, but the immediate result is a lot of points lost, and it happens. You know, you can't get it all spot on. Will you buy a Chelsea defender if you have Sanchez? I wouldn't double up personally. From a fixtures perspective, you can do it, but my favourite triple up in Chelsea would be Palmer, Jackson, and Sanchez. Guys, 300 plus watching. Surely we can get 100 likes at least, right? Thank you, Dryhill. Yeah, we will get to it eventually, but it does take a long time. So yeah, we'll get to it. Semenyo suspension this game week really hurts. Yeah, exactly. I said that on Twitter. You're completely spot on. I think he could have got a goal at least in this 4-2 thriller between Bournemouth and Wolves, but it wasn't meant to be. Welcome, Beardy. Sharda's not essential. I'll talk about him in my transfer tips. Definitely not. I mean, look at Brentford's upcoming fixtures. He was incredible today. And if he plays up front more often, could we see him being the standout Brentford asset? Yeah, maybe. But there are bigger... I think there are better options in his position from other teams, I have to say. Yeah, I think João Pedro is a reliable starter. He has been subbed off early in the last 2 game weeks. That's a big cause for concern, but I think that's just a way of keeping him, fit, not rushing him too much in terms of playing 90 minutes from the get-go. And I think the plan is to start him in most game weeks. Will he be rotated at times? Yes. I very much doubt that a lot of these key FPL assets will go unscathed in this Christmas period. We've got games every 3-4 days. We've got the Carabao Cup in certain scenarios. We've got the Champions League and, of course, the Premier League. And in January, the FA Cup comes into play for Premier League teams. So, yeah, there's a lot of football. Sell Semenyo or Mbeumo first? In this case, it would be Mbeumo, but I personally keep him against Villa. Why do you sell Bruno Fernandes? He faces Arsenal next, and I think Saka's form is too good to ignore. I should have just gone for him in the first place. I don't think Fernandes is bad. I don't suddenly think that. He'll probably do well against Arsenal and in future game weeks, but I just decided to take the plunge, buy Saka, and enough's enough. I made a mistake and I want to undo it. Mbeumo to Semenyo in Game Week 14, I'd keep Mbeumo. Bruno, 2 goals, 1 assist, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of United personally, but I'd take that all day long. That would make me feel a little bit better. Unfortunately, though, I very much doubt Bruno will get 2 goal contributions, let alone the 3 that you mentioned. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Not sure getting Timber, Salah, and João Pedro for a -4 is a mistake. I don't know who you sold. I can't remember anyway, but they're good transfers. They will pay off that hit very soon, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Salah rank killer. Feels like I should have taken a hit and not have been scared. However, it would have been Bruno and Mbeumo out. Easier said than done. Yeah, I wouldn't have sold Bruno and Mbeumo against, Everton and Leicester. And I think Fernandes could give you something tomorrow. That's kind of the hope there. Thank you, Singh, for moderating the chat. So yeah, I'll probably put the chat message just so you are aware. Repeat questions and stuff like that may be skipped. So just bear that in mind. Just going to put that message now. Smash the like button if you haven't already. It costs nothing. Thank you to those that have done it already. And I actually forgot to set the super chat goal, which we tend to do since they've introduced this feature on YouTube. So let me do that very quickly. It's kind of hectic when I was starting this stream. The Arsenal game just ended. I was having my setup ready. So yeah, excuses, but just letting you guys know. Let's get this done. Okay. All right, I think that's done. So yeah, we'll try to hit the super chat goal. It's just a lenient one of 5, and that will mean a longer stream, more questions answered, and even delving into UCL fantasy. Harry Kane was subbed off due to injury against Borussia Dortmund tonight, for example. But of course, I think obviously the best case scenario with UCL fantasy is to talk about that next week, and that's what I'll be doing. Yeah, I'll try to find a way to get all the content done for you lot. Welcome, Twisted Parky. Brighton rotation imminent after poor performance against Southampton. Yeah, I saw some Brighton fans talk about the importance of Veltman, and missing him was obviously very costly. Despite Lamptey getting the assist, he was a bit suspect defensively, so hopefully Veltman comes back very soon. And yeah, hopefully he can actually pay off my faith in him from yesterday. Mbeumo to Kudus, Bowen or Gordon. My preference would be Bowen, but Kudus is a very good shout. I like that. Hope you're well. We'll be dipping in and out. So much football. Yeah, no worries, Twisted Parky. Yeah, all good. Yeah, man, just FPL wise a bit frustrated, but it's kind of part and parcel. I can't even speak English today or Spanish or anything. I can't speak human. My rank isn't that bad, I was 570k before this weekend, but yeah, it's just buying Saka. I have to say again, it cost me 30-40 points. I mean, it's ridiculous how much of a swing these 50-50 calls, or maybe it isn't a 50-50 call, but that's the way I saw it. Who is a more urgent sell? For me, Garnacho's more of an urgent sell. Gavardio and Lewis out to who? In what order? I'd rather sell Lewis first. Thank you, the GOAT. Yeah, we hit 30k yesterday. We'll try to hit more goals next year. But for now, I think pretty much just pushing on towards 31,000 and building towards bigger targets. I just don't think Gusto's a great FPL asset. He'll be rotated from time to time. He's injury prone. I mean, you can go for him, a bit more attacking potential and bonus points than Cole will. But I think Sanchez is by far the best way of covering Chelsea defensively. Selling Mbumo, I'd personally keep him, and that's what I'll be doing in Gameweek 14 because I've already made 2 transfers, taken a -4 hit, and undone some of my mistakes. And it'll probably lead to more points lost and more mistakes, but it is what it is. What are some good Bruno replacements? I mean, apart from the obvious Saka, Palmer, and Salah kind of trios, I think you'd probably be looking at Jared Bowen or Kudus for me. I would definitely be looking at them. I don't think you need to sell Bruno Fernandes, though, unless you're going to one of those big 3 in the midfield. Thoughts on either Iwobi, Kluivert, if allows me to fund Saka. I'd rather go for Kluivert here. Iwobi has been decent in FPL this season, but Fulham have terrible fixtures over the next 4 to 5 game weeks, and Kluivert's on penalties. He's got a bit of something about him, but a hat-trick of penalties, it's not going to happen again, is it? I'd Kluivert on the bench. Yeah, once again, I go back to that. The hat-trick of pens. Very unlucky there, in my opinion. Is it time to sell Rodgers? I think he's a hold. Last year ranked 6k, this year 4 million. Life is a leveler. Not always. You know, sometimes you can consistently do well or consistently do poorly. But yeah, it can be a roller coaster, and this season has been one for me too. No offense to all, but hope Salah, Palmer, Haaland, and anyone else that is Chelsea blanks. I have Palmer, but some have captains, so one a blank. Yeah, that makes sense. FPL can make you feel these sort of things. I think the kind of main aim of this game is to appeal or kind of immerse you in all these kind of games you never really would give a crap about. Like Brighton, Southampton, maybe, for some people. No offense, mate. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. It looks like I'm asking for trouble. Is Estupiñán the best Brighton defender to bring in? I think he'll be rotated, just a bit like Veltman. Of course, he missed out due to injury. The safest bet is Van Heck. And just like with Chelsea, I think Verbruggen is the best way of covering Brighton defensively. Hey Dylan, can you rank the sell priority ahead of the festive period? Minus Konate, Isak, Fernandes. Well, Konate's out for 5 to 6 weeks. He's the first one to sell. Isak could be out against Liverpool, but that isn't really confirmed yet. But I think he'd be second and Fernandes third. Now, it also depends on the players you don't have. So if you have Palmer and Salah but no Saka, you may want to do Fernandes to Saka in Gameweek 14. So that could change the order of your priorities. But Konate for me is definitely number 1. He's the one you want to sell. Bruno or Mbeumo out for Palmer. I'd rather keep Bruno and sell Mbeumo in this case. I think Mbeumo outscores Fernandes in Gameweek 14, but longer term, I'd back Bruno. Rodgers or Smith Rowe? Rodgers. Is Estupiñán worth considering? Yeah, he is, and I mentioned this yesterday actually, although I gave more attention to Verbruggen, Van Heck and Veltman. But once again, I go back to the rotation that we could see in both fullback positions. I think Van Heck is the most nailed on. So if you are prepared to have the odd benching here and there, I know you're saying he's more nailed on, but I still think he won't play every single game, then he could be decent. He's got the attacking potential and bonus points. Isak and Mbeumo to Joao Pedro and Saka for a -4? I'd say yes, partly because I've done something very similar. I'm not sure when Greaves is going to play. I couldn't tell you, but you definitely don't want to rely on him. He should be second or third on your bench most weeks. Dunk over Van Heck? I don't think Van Heck drops to the bench. He's probably Brighton's best defender this season. Maybe Dunk starts over Igor Julio, but not over Van Heck. Best defenders, same as what I've discussed recently and in the stream. Just to kind of briefly recap, a Brighton defender like Van Heck, maybe Estupiñán, Levi Colwill, Gabriel, if not Jurriën Timber. We'll see how serious the Gabriel injury is. Virgil van Dijk, and if you want someone cheaper, maybe Joe Gomez is your best bet. So pretty much what I've discussed recently, and if you check out my best wildcard team video in the next day or two, you will see my definitive list of the best defenders. Thoughts on Hall or Mikalenko? Well, next week it'd be Mikalenko against Wolves. I just don't see Newcastle keeping Liverpool out. I definitely wouldn't start Lewis Hall. Isak isn't out, as I just said, but I've sold him personally. 10 points with Kulusevski, Romero, Salah, Palmer, Jackson and Watkins left. I don't know if you're going to get a green arrow, but I think it won't be too bad by the end of the week. I think Salah and Palmer, and to be fair, I think there's some really good players in there. I think you'll be okay. 31 -4 so far, only sells and Saka returned. Looks like another red arrow. Yeah, but at least we got Saka. Looking at the bright side, maybe I should do that for my own team, but yeah. I don't know, such a weird feeling I've got because I'm very happy that Arsenal won so convincingly, but I've been backing Saka all year. You know, against Forest when he was flagged and he was facing a very decent team, people were saying, why are you recommending him as a buy? And I didn't do it myself. Yeah, game was disappointing. We beat top teams but struggled to break down and beat teams in a block. Yeah, look, I was being a twat, to be fair, when I said that earlier. I should have given a better example, like Bournemouth Wolves. I think that would have been a better one. Yeah, I think you're right. And I did mention this briefly in the deadline stream yesterday. You know, I think it might have been Easy99 who also said it about, you know, Brighton possibly struggling against Southampton. And that turned out to be true because we saw it against Ipswich Town earlier this season. And yeah, 1-1 draw after everybody backed Brighton to win very big. So it happens. The bonus points should load in by 9 p.m. UK time. So within the next hour. Can Havertz or Odegaard cover Saka? To an extent, but Saka is by far the best option. I'd personally recommend him. Joao Pedro out for Solanke. Don't sell Joao Pedro. If anything, buy him. Semenyo is a keep, to be honest. Great fixtures coming, and also Spurs at home with injuries and no goalie. Ain't that bad. Oh yeah, I'll discuss Semenyo in my transfer tips. I think right now he's a hold. I mean, if you kept him for the suspension against Wolves, you almost certainly want to keep him with good fixtures. Even Tottenham isn't too shabby. Yeah, with Isak, I don't know. I'm sorry to say it. I wish I had more information. But I haven't seen any definitive update by Eddie Howe. I doubt we'll get any concrete news before the deadline. I've sold Isak anyway, just to be able to fund Saka. Just to let you know, I'll talk about it in the team selection. But my opinion is that Isak will be back soon. If not for the Liverpool game, it will be straight afterwards in Gameweek 15. Sell Isak and Fernandes and Gabriel for a -4 to Jackson, Saka and Colwill. I would not sell Gabriel. If that's the only way you could fund Jackson and Saka, then maybe I consider it, but try to keep Gabriel. He's arguably the best defender in the game. Hey mate, what a crazy gimmick so far. Brentford scoring for fun, 0 in Boomer returns. Gabriel and Saka going crazy in one half. Southampton almost doing the upset. And I captain Joao versus Saka. Yeah, full of ups and downs, as you say. At least you've got Saka though, fair play on that one. And you're right, Arsenal went riot in the first half. I think the second 45 minutes, you know, it wasn't that interesting. Arsenal were kind of trying to kill the game and they did a good job in the end. But that could have been a very different match if Arsenal didn't score that second penalty. Sending hello to you from vacation in Jamaica. People love FPL here and have all games live on ESPN and Disney+. Enjoy your holiday. That should be a really good one. I've never been to Jamaica personally. But yeah, I know Jamaican patties are really good, so have some of them and enjoy yourself and enjoy the week too. In Boomer replacements, I'd personally hold him, but if you want to sell, I think Jeroboam or Kudus is definitely a decent choice. And of course, if you've got the funds, Saka is a no-brainer. What's the best way to try and get top in Premier League over 30 points off with them having an almost identical team to me? Yeah, that can happen often, and that's the most frustrating part when you're behind somebody when you've got a very similar team. I think you might look at some differentials now, maybe Bowen or Kudus against Leicester. They haven't been in great form, with Kudus being suspended and Bowen being kind of up and down, but they've got a great fixture on their hands, and afterwards it's a good run for West Ham. So that could be one idea, for example. But I don't know your team, so it's difficult for me to, you know, really recommend anything else because I might recommend someone you already have. In Boomer to Saka for free or Johnson to Saka and Isak to Jackson for a -4. If Jackson isn't suspended tomorrow, so if he doesn't get the yellow card against Villa, I'd take the -4 hit personally. But I think they're both good options. I don't think you can go wrong with either. Still worth keeping Haaland, or is it too late to get Salah? Good question. I still think it's worth going for Salah. Of course, you might have missed out on a lot of points, just like I did, but I personally think Salah is the best FPL option by some distance. I think Saka might be second now on current form, but let's not forget Palmer. And if he hauls against Villa, everybody will be talking about him, and he'll be the bus captain for almost everybody against Southampton. Benching Boomer or Rodgers in 14? I'd rather bench Rodgers personally, but that's kind of a personal take. Not only that, we drew 0-0 with Ipswich, drew with Southampton, drew with Forest 2-2, drew with Wolves 2-2. We dominated all and should have won. We were not great on Friday, though. Yeah, I think Brighton do step it up against the best teams, beating Man City, a draw at the Emirates, and of course, almost getting a result at Anfield too. yeah, it must be very frustrating as a Brighton fan, but you're in a good position in the league, you know. I think you would have definitely taken it. Jackson captain for 14. Yes, let's see if he goes unscathed tomorrow. That's the big thing. Who's the next manager to face the sack? Lopetegui on the chopping block, you reckon? He was on the chopping block, but I think those two victories, the draw against Everton and that huge win against Newcastle might have bought him a bit of time. It all depends though, because if Southampton, for example, get battered in a game coming up like Chelsea, you could see Russell Martin once again facing the scrutiny. You know, I can't remember when it was. It was after they played Arsenal, going into the international break, so around game week, 6? Something like that. Russell Martin was touted to be sacked, according to reports, but then he ended up keeping his job. So that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure about it, but I think either Russell Martin or Lopetegui would be right up there. I just think the Spaniard has a bit more time because of that win against Newcastle. Thoughts on keeping Gavardio long term? Definitely a shout with City having good fixtures after Liverpool away, but I think Gabriel, if he's fit, Virgil van Dijk, Timber are better options at a similar price. Should have captain Saka. Yeah, I thought Salah would be better, even possibly Joao Pedro, but I was wrong. Maybe Salah will do something, but still. At least you've got him. Mbeumo out, Bowen in. Good transfer. I do like Mbeumo. Sorry, I do like Bowen, but I'm a bit bullish on Mbeumo still. Who did you bring in for Isak? Pedro? Yes, I was looking at Jackson, but it basically required an additional hit. So, for example, I would have had to do Mbeumo to Bowen for a -4, and I would just rather keep Gerard Bowen. Sorry, keep Mbeumo. I have Fleckin. Should I buy Sanchez or Colwill? I'd buy Sanchez. Fleckin can get a lot of saves, and he might even surprise you with a penalty save or bonus points, you know, maybe one clean sheet, but Brentford have an awful run for the next 6-8 game weeks. I'd personally buy Sanchez. What are your thoughts on Ruud van Nistelrooy taking over Leicester? I actually think it's a good appointment. Let's not forget, Van Nistelrooy was at PSV, not so long ago, and he won the Dutch Cup there. Got a win against Arsenal in Europa League, and I know he had very good players back then, like Xavi Simons and I think Gakpo, but I think Van Nistelrooy is a decent manager. He obviously had a great impact at United in a short spell. I'm not saying he'll get Leicester out of it, because ultimately it's a risky appointment. He doesn't have much experience, and, you know, maybe they could have gone for somebody who kind of guarantees you that kind of safety, like David Moyes. But I just think with Van Nistelrooy, if they're able to stay up this season, they can build upon this in the summer, play some good football, and maybe establish themselves as a mid-table team, and possibly beyond that in the future. So I actually think Van Nistelrooy is a good appointment. That's my personal take. I don't know much about Van Nistelrooy, but from the little I've watched of PSV and his teams over the years, I think he's decent. Jackson or Watkins for Isak if he's out long-term? Jackson for me, if he doesn't get a yellow carded tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, Tustapaki. So good to see we've got over 100. Let's get to 200 plus. I'm sure within the next hour we can do that, and some people do watch in retrospect, which I also appreciate. Check all the links, by the way, in the description for my Patreon and the championships if you want to support the channel even further and gain access to my videos very early on. There's also my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, the Discord server, FPL League, Drafthound, and Spotify. But let's go to some different screens first and not just show this hideous bloody team I've got. Let's not even... Let's go to the FDR until Game Week 19. And Arsenal are now top after a resounding victory against West Ham. Bournemouth, Aston Villa, West Ham and Ipswich Town are in the top 5. And we've got some big names near the bottom. So Forest, Brentford, Man United, Everton, Southampton, even the likes of Liverpool and Spurs are in the bottom 7. With predicted points, there's no surprise here. Cole Palmer is top, and I do agree with this. But on paper, you know, football isn't played on paper. Saka against West Ham, you know, he might not have been the sexy pick in Game Week 13, but guess what? He got 18 bloody points. He's third in this table. Salah is also up there against Newcastle away. Watkins, Jackson, Isak, Eze, Foden, and Havertz in the top 10. Fantasy football, I love Eze, by the way. In my opinion, the best predicted price changes, the best website for that is livefpl.net. They got it spot on yesterday. They said Joao Pedro isn't expected to rise after his blank against Southampton, and they were completely spot on. But they are projecting Aina to go up in price today. As for price falls, we could see many. Konate, Mbeumo, Jimenez, Elanga, Duran, Ben White, Andres Pereira, Van der Ven, Johnston, Steele, Madueke, My asset is terrible, by the way, and this ranking is very small. Jacob Murphy, Guido Rodriguez, Nkuku, also, yeah, Colwill? No, David, sorry, yeah, and some random options there who we don't even give a crap about. But yeah, this is the best website for price changes. It's completely free too. I'm going to put a link in the live chat now. They've actually found like a formula of how certain price changes work when things are locked in, for example. So definitely check out livefpl.net. That's what I use to provide all the updated ranks that you see on the left-hand side, because the game week isn't over yet, and the FPL website hasn't even updated these rankings up until now. Let's also show you Drafthound. There is a link in the description below. They're recommending the following things for my team. Start Mikolenko, Lewis, and Semenyo. I don't have Lewis anymore, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I sold him for Veltman, so I need to sync my team. At the click of a button, it's all done for you. So yeah, let's do take two. Optimize the team. Mikolenko and Semenyo in. Chris Wood on the bench. They put Palmer as the vice and Salah captain, but that could change over the next day or two. But yeah, that is their recommendations. And as things stand, let's see what they recommend for transfers. So it's just loading up a little bit. It's very quick and intuitive. They recommend Veltman out. I just bought the bloody guy in for Pedro Porro. They also say Vandenberg or Aït-Nouri to Pedro Porro or Wan-Bissaka, and Semenyo to Matoma, which I also considered, by the way, yesterday. But in the end, I made a completely useless and unnecessary transfer. I'm on a run, by the way, of 7 to 8 bad transfers in UCL Fantasy and FPL. Let's see if I can make it 9 to 10 with the -4 hit I've already taken this week, and I'll talk about that in the team selection. As for the most captain players, Salah is top despite facing Man City. Palmer, Saka, Mbeumo, and Joao Pedro in the top 5. So those that went for Mbeumo and Joao Pedro will be crying, and those that went for Saka will be feasting. But this is in the top 10k. Let's see actually for the top 100k. It'll be a little bit different, I think. Well, not really, actually. Just more people actually captain Salah. Hopefully he does the business tomorrow. As for FPL.team, this is what I was planning to do. It would have ideally been Chris Wood making way instead of Isak, but Joao Pedro and Saka, yeah, I think buying those two makes a lot of sense, but I still got some big issues. I've got Veltman yellow flagged, Gabriel's a doubt. The rest of my defensive line is quite poor, but I think I could survive in Game Week 14. I think I could, all right? Just, I'm done. I would have loved to buy Jarrod Bowen or Kudus as a very differential punt against Leicester, but it will have to be Mbeumo living to fight another day. His time might be coming to an end, though. I do recognise that, but from my perspective, I'm going to keep him. I'm not ideally going to take a -8 hit, but never say never, right? As for FPL Challenge, it goes to show how petty I can be. Once I saw Veltman wasn't in the lineup, I decided to double up on Brighton defensively to hopefully jinx them, and jinx them I did. I did get 4 points by Stupinian, though, but I originally had Aina and Milenkovic, and they kept the clean sheet against Ipswich Town, of course. Saka, I did bring him in for Son at least, though. He's carrying my team. It does say 23 points at the moment, but once the bonus points come in, and Saka obviously gets free, courtesy of his goal and hat-trick of FPL assists, he will have 18 points overall. Salah's my captain, though. We'll see how he does tomorrow. The challenge this week is any Liverpool or City player will get double the number of points. So essentially, Salah will have his points quadrupled. Let's see how he does. So let's go back to my FPL team. And let's actually do a quick rundown of the bonus points, just in case you aren't aware. I just kind of gave away the Saka one, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, really. But let's talk about the other bonus points that we've seen. So in Brentford-Leicester, Schade, surprise, surprise, the hat-trick hero with maximum bonus. Wisser gets 2 and Buonanotte gets 1. He is a very good budget midfielder, by the way, Buonanotte. A very big return there for Leicester City. He's a quality player. Between Crystal Palace and Newcastle, Munoz gets 3, Dan Burn gets 2, and Mark Gay gets 1. He had a very, very, very chaotic game. He got an assist, scored an own goal, and got a yellow card, and gets a bonus point. Absolutely insane. As for Nottingham Forest, Ipswich Town, the famous old Chris Wood gets 3 bonus points, a hero of mine this season. Aina gets 2, and Murillo 1, but I forgot, sorry. You know, the FPL love to change bonus points at the very end of the game, so this is not locked in. As for Wolves Bournemouth, of course, Kluivert with a hat-trick of penalties gets 3. Strand Larsen gets 2. And Ivanilson gets 1 with a hat-trick of assists for him too. Incredible stuff there. And as for Arsenal, 5, West Ham 2, Saka with 3 bonus points, Trossard 2, and Martin Odegaard, the glue, the catalyst, the wizard, gets a bonus point as well. As for yesterday, if you aren't aware, the bonus points did fall to Matoma. He get maximum bonus points. Stevens and Estupinian shared 2, and Downs and Lamptey also shared a bonus point, but there could be some changes by the end of the game week. Smash the like button if you haven't already. We've got around 300 people watching for the entirety of the stream, which I appreciate. Let's get the likes up big time. Yeah, I mean, look, as long as Bruno goes ballistic against Everton and then he goes quiet against Arsenal, I'm a happy man. But yeah, one of the worst decisions I've made in terms of outcome was buying Bruno and Isak for a -4 instead of just buying Saka for Foden for free. 40 points down. 40 bloody points down. I'm going Palmer captain as well. Yeah, I mean, when there's like a standout captain, it seems too obvious, too good to be true. Maybe Salah last week against Southampton. It can work out, but there are times where it seems destined to fail. I don't really understand the projected price falls from livefpl.net. Is 100% going to fall tonight, just like other websites? Pretty much, yeah. I think that's the way it works. But for example, over the last couple of days and weeks, they have found like a formula in a lot of cases, and they say this player is not going to go up in price tonight, and instead this player will, and they've got it spot on recently. It's not going to be 100%, but it has proven to be very reliable. Haaland's time's coming. Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout. He might be the best captain in Game Week 14, actually, if not in the top 2-3. Sanchez over Bruggen, probably Sanchez. I've talked about both of them in my recent videos. They're both fine. Dylan, what's your take on the Mbeumo assist and from the Towers? Yeah, good question. I haven't even covered that. It should have been an assist. Based on the rules, I mean, I don't really care. Mbeumo's a template pick, right? But it should have been an assist. Best 4.4 to 4.8 defender, probably Colwell just because of fixtures. Mbeumo to Saka and Isak to Vanelson for a -4? Yes. Hi Dylan, would you sell Isak, Fernandes and Dean for Saka, Wood, or any 6.6 and below? I would not buy Chris Wood. He's been great for me, very consistent. He might even get the odd goal in this run, but Forest are near the bottom of the FDR. I mean, unless you just despise fixtures and you think it's all about form and you don't really care too much, then fair enough. But I personally think Forest will drop quite a lot of points, and I said this recently, and of course they considered 6th to Newcastle and Arsenal. I'd rather buy Joao Pedro or Cunha. As for Luka Dean, no, not for me. If you want to go for Luka Dean, fair enough, great fixtures, but I personally would avoid Luka Dean like the plague. Skib Lord says, I have 45 points with Captain Pedro. Good score though, all things considered. Still have Salah, Palmer and Robinson left. Do you think I'll be alright? Yeah, at 45 points, you'll definitely be okay. Don't think we should take Southampton as little anymore. Haaland triple captain has failed. Pedro captain has failed. Yeah, but Salah got a brace against them, right? And Southampton gifted Liverpool goals. I mean, if also for McCarthy, maybe Southampton would have got a win, and that does support what you're saying, to be fair, but I just think defensively they are very suspect still, and I personally think Chelsea could score at least 3. My current prediction for that game would be 3-1 Chelsea. Down scored against us, but could have easily been red carded by then. Yeah, there were some poor decisions in that game. You could arguably say the second Southampton goal, but maybe it was marginally offside. That was a very contentious call either way. Jackson, captain over Palmer, is tempting. Yeah, definitely. Form should be on the top of the agenda. Of course, everyone plays the game differently. Some people might be a form person, others will be fixtures. A combination of both is what I try to strive for, but yeah. Didn't get the clean sheet from Alex Moreno. He didn't start. Yeah, very unfortunate with that. FPL can sometimes give you a gut punch. Yeah, best replacement for Mbeumo, apart from the obvious Sakas, Palmers of the world, I'd probably say Bowen and Kudus would be very good choices. I think Bowen would be my favourite. Matoma's decent with Brighton's upcoming fixtures. So probably Bowen or Matoma for me. Bruno to what, 9 million and below mid? You don't need to sell Bruno then. I've only sold him to get Saka. So if you want to sell Bruno, then maybe Bowen or Matoma once again. Gabriel update is that it's not concussion related, so he might be okay. Well, I'm not really too optimistic about it because against Sporting, he was also subbed off due to injury, and we saw this against Liverpool back in Game Week 9. So there is a chance he is benched or doesn't make the squad in Game Week 14, and I would be in the mud if that's the case, and also Arsenal. I think United would have a very good chance if that was the case. Mario Rodriguez says, hi from Portugal, Dylan. Isak and Mbeumo to Evanilson and Saka, or Isak and Son to Jackson and Saka? That's a great question, to be fair. I would probably go for Isak and Mbeumo out. That also allows you to keep Son. The only downside, though, is not having Jackson against Southampton, but maybe he gets yellow carded tomorrow, and this isn't even a question. So my gut feeling would be Evanilson and Saka. Sold Wood for Joao Pedro in Game Week 14. That's what I wanted to do, but because of Isak's injury, I've decided to go a bit differently here, and I'll probably regret it. Only me talking about Kirkers over the week. He has been mentioned quite a lot, to be fair. Maybe not in the last week, but he has been mentioned quite a lot, and even I mentioned him as a option on the wild card, but I'm not bullish on him. He's got a bit of attacking potential about him, but Bournemouth aren't good for clean sheets. I don't think they'll keep many. What about bringing Bowen in for the next 5 games? Yeah, I've mentioned him a lot today, so you won't find me disagreeing. I think Bowen has been a little bit underwhelming this season, but against Leicester, very great fixture. I think he could score a goal or 2. My prediction right now would be a goal and an assist for Jarrod Bowen. Yeah, Game Week 14 will be on Tuesday. Look, I think people will enjoy it, the quick turnarounds, the chaos. It's a bit awkward for me. The next few weeks are going to be chaotic in general to get all the content up for FPL and UCL Fantasy, but I'll try my best. Why not Kulusevski or Maddison for Mbeumo? They're not bad. I mean, look, Maddison's been very impressive FPL-wise. I remember back in Game Week 4 or 5, people said he had a bad start to the season, and I actually said I disagree. But yeah, it's just I think other options are better, to be honest, and Spurs are so up and down. They're very inconsistent, and Maddison hasn't started consistently recently. Think I might jump off Isak? It's not ideal because I do back Isak to do well if he stays fit, but he's such an injury-prone player. I've sold him. Is Jackson up for either Wood or Cunha a good choice? I would not sell Jackson against Southampton. Even if he's suspended, I'd be tempted to bench him and just start your 5th midfielder instead. But, you know, if you want to sell him, I get your logic there. But, yeah, against Southampton, I'm sorry, I wouldn't sell him Jackson. Isak to Watkins, yeah. If Isak is out against Liverpool, I think that's a good move. I do prefer Jackson if he doesn't get carded tomorrow, but Watkins is absolutely fine. Best Lewis replacement, probably Colwill, based on fixtures. I don't trust Chelsea that much defensively, but I think you kind of just play the fixtures. Yeah, Wan-Bissaka, great form, goals in consecutive games. He also was quite good on the ball against Arsenal at times today. Emerson Palmieri scored a great free kick, which I mentioned earlier shouldn't have been given, just like the first Arsenal penalty should have been given. But yeah, it would be Wan-Bissaka out of the 2. Evanilson or Welbeck? Yeah, because you've got Joao Pedro already, I'd go for Evanilson, but otherwise, I'd still go for the Brighton attacker. Dylan, because you bought in Saka so quickly, did you get his West Ham points? No. I wish. I will get his points in Game Week 14, but I'll probably jinx him. Just saying it now. My recent transfers have been cursed, so yeah, don't be surprised if he blanks against United. Seasoned Lemon says start Rodgers or Mbeumo next week. Mbeumo for me. And triple Brighton, okay or bad? It's not ideal. I think 2 is the sweet spot. But yeah, I think it's okay. It's more good than bad. I'll put it that way. My favourite trio would be Joao Pedro, Verbruggen, and Mitoma. You could also make a case for Welbeck over Joao Pedro. I think it's quite close. Forest can score against City, all right. Yeah, but Chris Wood is currently on my bench. Mbeumo plus Wood to Saka and 5.5 forward -4. Yeah, but which 5.5 forward are you going to? It's kind of an awkward price point. Unfortunately, Joao Pedro is now 5.7. Vanilson 6 million. Cunha 7.1 actually. Yeah, I'm just not sure about your budget forward here. I wouldn't recommend Jamie Vardy right now. Definitely not Mikel Antonio. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. If you do cheap out your third forward, I'd probably recommend just going really cheap, like 4.5, 4.6 million. But maybe that's not ideal. I think squad depth is very important. He upcutted Gabriel though. Yeah, that was a clear penalty. Like I said, so just to make it clear with the penalty thing that I mentioned, I think the first penalty wasn't the one that Saka earned. I think there was not really any contact, so I do think Saka dived. And I also think the Emerson free kick, which was beautiful, shouldn't have been given. Bruno and Isak to Bowen and Erling for a -4. As long as that doesn't jeopardize your ability to buy Palmer and Salah, I'm guessing you have both of them, then fair enough. I think Haaland could be actually a decent player to buy right now. And I do like Jared Bowen over the next 4 game weeks. Is Dalot or Garnacho who is more urgent sell? Probably Garnacho at the moment. That could change. Would you sell Mbuma to Matoma? Not this week, no. I'd keep Mbuma. Best defenders to buy to replace Konsa, Konate and Greaves. Colwill, Gabriel or Timber, depending on Gabriel's fitness. You might also consider Joe Gomez or whoever starts in place of Konate tomorrow, but those will be some options I'd recommend. As soon as Wissa came back, Mbuma starts to blank. Yeah, apart from the Ipswich Town game where Mbuma was very lucky to get 15 points, to be honest. I actually mentioned this quite a lot of times, but I am backing Mbuma against Villa. If he doesn't, then fair enough. I mean, he might be on the chopping block for me very soon, but I've got other issues with the transfers I made last week. They have really put me down a downward spiral. Who would you start? Gabriel, Trent, Aït-Nouri, Mikalenko and Lewis. Yeah, you've got a good defensive line this week. I'd probably bench Aït-Nouri at the moment. He's got the attacking potential, though. He's the most exciting alongside Trent here, but yeah, it depends. If you don't have Raya, I'd probably start Gabriel, Mikalenko, and Trent. I think that's my current 3. Start Semenyo or Evanilson next week. Evanilson. Yeah, Aït-Nouri has been blanking. He did well in the first game I bought him against Southampton, but yes, since then it's been quite poor. Bench 2, Mbeumo, Smith Rowe, Gabriel, Bruno. Probably Smith Rowe and Bruno, but it's always risky. You might want to start the attacker over the defender in this case and bench Gabriel, but I'd personally start Gabriel. So now I don't have Saka, he becomes an explosive player. What a troll this game is. Yeah, and when you buy him back, he's going to get injured or something or be yellow flagged and get 2 points. It's just the game, isn't it? Best 6.6 attacker and below to have with Welbeck and Cunha. Well, Joao Pedro for me, but since you've got Welbeck already, I might suggest Evanilson instead. Selling Konate tonight, but not sure who to go for. I already have Hall and Aït-Nouri, Gabriel Mazraoui. Can't get Timber as I have no budget. I'm not really that keen on Villa. You might want to go there, and Luka Dean's the most exciting, but he's such a troll. In your case, I'd go for Colwill. Facing Southampton away next, great fixtures. Value tied up in Mbeumo, but time to sell. Potential replacements. Bowen, Matoma, Maddison. I think if you've got the funds, I think Saka is a very simple one, but I don't think that's applicable in most cases. Arsenal build up an attack so quickly recently. I think there's a lot of different factors because Odegaard returned against Chelsea. He played well, obviously got the assist, but Arsenal were quite poor in that game. I felt they could have really killed Chelsea and they didn't. So it's a combination of factors. I also think Arsenal getting some key players back. But this today, actually, I know the win will mask it, but Partey and Marino not in the squad. 2 big misses as well. We'll see how long they're out for. Gabriel coming off injured. So I don't know. There's a lot of different factors. I also think Arteta has kind of let go of the handbrake. I think it comes down to him ultimately. So I kind of criticised him when Arsenal were doing poorly. And I think he deserves credit when Arsenal batter the likes of Forest, Sporting and West Ham. I have Raya, so do I still start Gabriel? I mean, you still could, but I'd probably favour... I'd maybe take a punt on probably Lewis. I just know that now that I sold him, he's going to do well. And would you sell Isak for a -4? I've done it already myself, so it just depends on the circumstances. I'm not against it. The plan was to bench Mbeumo for Villa, then play against Newcastle, but I can't take not having Saka for 2 game weeks. Would you bench Acuna or Pedro this week? I'd probably bench Pedro, but I'm not sure about that, even as I say out loud. I'm actually quite bullish on Pedro. And Fulham have been a bit shaky recently, obviously losing 4-1 against Wolves. That was very surprising. It's not ideal. It really isn't. I'd probably bench Pedro, though. Bought Veltman for a hit, ends up out of the list. Yeah, I bought him for free, but I still felt robbed. It didn't really change anything this week, but what it has done is basically ensured I've only had 1 free transfer in Gameweek 14, so that means a -4 hit instead of 2 free transfers. So it's just been a disaster recently with my transfers. It's very frustrating, not just in FPL, but also UCL Fantasy. Welcome Accra, 49 points with players to go. Nice. Not sure how many players you've got, but should be good. Everton didn't even score goals. Why wouldn't you start Nuri when he also has attacking potential? I personally think Everton will score. And did you see Wolves today? They conceded 4 at home. I mean, fair enough. Nuri is the most exciting. You might want to start with a Gabriel if you've got Raya in goal already, but I don't think it's clear-cut, mate. Palmer or Saka for captain for me this week? I'd go for Palmer. But Saka is in excellent form, and we can't ignore that. Palmer's been very underwhelming recently. Should I sell Konate or Isak? I think the priority would be Konate. Vandenberg, Greaves, Konate, Nuri. I know who to sell and for who. I mean, Konate is quite simple. He's the most expensive and he's out for 5-6 weeks, so you're not going to get any value out of him. I'd sell Konate first, Aina second because of fixtures, and probably Greaves third. I mean, you could easily say Vandenberg to be fair, but yeah, only 8 Nuri looks good for the next couple for me. You could argue Aina can get you a shot clean sheet because Forest are decent, so he's not like a priority sell, but definitely Konate is the first one to make way. Fleck into Raya for a hit or just play Fabianski? Just play Fabianski, I think. Against Leicester away, yeah, I think West Ham concede, but he can get some points from saves, and I'm not sure if it's worth a hit. I think United probably score against Arsenal. I have Wissa and Mbeumo. Should I sell one of them or both? Probably one, and based on recent form, it would be Mbeumo making way. But I do believe the Cameroonian will get something against Villa. That's my personal take. Biggest sell, Aina, Bruno, Mbeumo, Smith Rowe. The biggest sell, probably Aina, but it's all dependent. Because, for example, if you don't have Saka, Bruno to Saka could just be a very simple move and the best transfer for your team. Hope Solanke doesn't punish me tomorrow. Sold him for Isak last week for a hit. So did I. I think Solanke will get something against Fulham, so just not really expecting much there. Will Bruno do well in the few game weeks? Already have the big three, so I can't think of another midfielder. Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been saying. If you've got Salah, Palmer and Saka, I'd keep Bruno Fernandes. Despite the temptation to go to Bowen, Kudus, maybe Mitoma, and all these options I've discussed, I think Fernandes is still worth keeping. You're so unlucky you bought Isak for a hit now, selling him for a hit. What even happened to him? Look, everyone gets bad luck, and sometimes I've had really good luck, but it's just frustrating because I could have bought Saka for free and I would have been 30, 40 points up. I mean, what can you even do when that happens? As for Isak, I honestly don't know how severe the injury is. He might be available against Liverpool, but my gut feeling would be he probably returns in game week 15 or 16. I don't think it's a serious injury, but I've just pulled the plug and gone in a different direction, really. Start Dalot or Hall or sell one for a -4. I would not be selling Lewis Hall. Despite Newcastle being inconsistent, they've got decent-ish fixtures after Liverpool. And I think Dalot is a good option long-term. If I had to start one, it'd be Dalot, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth a -4 hit. 52 points, got Palmer and Salah left. Yeah, looking good. With the return of Igor Thiago, Wissa might play on the wing. I mentioned that briefly a couple of weeks ago, but it was Schade playing up front and getting a hat-trick today, so yeah, it's kind of not ideal for Wissa owners, but he has been in decent form compared to Brian Mbeumo. I have nothing in the bank. I did Wood to Jackson early. Yeah, nice stuff. You just have to hope that Jackson doesn't get suspended. I actually could have bought Jackson by doing the following moves. Let's go back to fpl.team. I'd highly recommend this website, by the way. Very good manner of visualizing future game weeks. So, of course, this is kind of redundant because I've already made my transfers, but I could have done something like this. Jackson in for Isak, Saka in for Fernandes, and then Jared Bowen for Mbeumo. It would have meant a -8 hit, and I'd have nothing left in the bank. But I just didn't want to sell Mbeumo for a hit this week. Maybe I'm going to be wrong about it, and this was the way to go. But it is what it is, right? At this point, I'm kind of not really too optimistic about my prospects. Best Konate replacements: Gabriel if he's fit, Timber, and if not, you could just go for Colwill. And I still like Brighton defenders, by the way, but it's a matter of timing. I think Colwill just has excellent fixtures. Konate to Virgil. Yeah, looks good to me. He's another good option. Konate for Van Dijk or Gabriel. Gabriel if he's fit. Brentford are terrible away. If they play with the same team, Schade is 9, then Mbeumo is sellable. No, don't get me wrong. Mbeumo is sellable. I just have a gut feeling he's going to do something against Villa. Not enough for me to captain him or something, but I've already made my moves. You know, the Isak injury, we'll see how bad that is. I wanted to buy Saka. Maybe I should have just sold Mbeumo. Maybe. At this point, it's just all done. Smith Rowe will be a good differential. I mean, at that price, you can't go wrong, right? But you've also got Buonanotte, you've got Rodgers and Semenyo, and I think Rodgers and Semenyo are slightly better right now. Dalot against an unformed Arsenal sounds rough. Yeah, I know, but the alternative is Lewis Hall against, top of the table Liverpool, so it's not great, is it? As a Chelsea fan, Sanchez could be a good option next game week, but he always makes silly mistakes. Yeah, true. Not good on the ball, not the most reliable goalkeeper, but I mean, if I'm buying one right now, I think Sanchez just has the best fixtures. Buy Gvardiol or Timber? Still Timber for me. I don't think Gvardiol's bad though. He probably needs a rest, but 8 key passes against Tottenham Hotspur. He's got by far the most attacking potential in that City defence, and they've got good fixtures after Liverpool, so not too bad. Try the -8 route to get Saka to keep. I've already done my transfer to Hill, so it's all done. So it doesn't really matter at this point. But yeah, I just wanted to buy Saka instantly, and I've done it. ESR versus Brighton at home is a keep. Yeah, like I mentioned with Smith Rowe, he's not a priority sell for me. Looking to upgrade a defender, have 2.3 in the bank. Anana, Fabianski, Leif Davis, Gabriel, Pau Torres, Howard Bellis and Keane. Want to change Pau Torres or Keane ideally. Any good choices? I'm not a fan of Aston Villa defensively, but I'd probably keep Pau Torres. I think Keane would be the priority sell. To replace him, yeah, you got a lot of money in the bank. You could even go directly to Virgil van Dijk, but I'd probably recommend Colwill here. Yeah, Odegaard. I made like a provisional list of the Transfer Tips podcast, and Odegaard was a buy for me. And I might still discuss him, but obviously a lot has changed on the Saturday too. I think he's a good option for the Arsenal attack, but Saka is on another level FPL-wise. Bench Garnacho for Joao Pedro. Hope he doesn't punish me. Yeah, if he doesn't start, then you might be in the clear. We can't kick ourselves because of Mbumo. He was in great form at home, just classic FPL. I agree, and he should have got the assist based on the FPL rules. I don't think Gabriel has a concussion. I don't think it was that, which is concerning because he was also subbed off against Sporting due to injury. Timber looks so good, his points are coming. Yep. I think Gabriel is still the best way of covering Arsenal defensively, but Timber is very good value for money. He's so exciting on the right-hand side. He's very dynamic, good on the ball, and decent crosser too. I prefer Bowen over Maddison, but there's no denying that Maddison has been the better asset up until now. Jackson for me, but bear in mind, one more yellow and he is suspended, and he could get that against Villa tomorrow. I think Johnson's okay, but there are better options elsewhere, like Matoma, Maddison at the moment, Jared Bowen. I'd also take a punt on Kudus potentially. You've also got Bruno Fernandes, who I still like. But yeah, I think Johnson's okay. I don't think there are many better options at that price and below, but Matoma, for example, would be one of them. Should I do the -8 route to get Sacrament or keep Bruno in Boomer? I may be overthinking because of the horrible game week. I don't think you should take the -8 hit personally, but yeah, I'm just wondering what the other moves would be, basically. So who are you selling to get? Oh, so yeah, you're selling Bruno and Mbeumo -8 route to get Saka. I'm just wondering what the alternative is in terms of making normal transfers or a -4 hit. Aït-Nouri has been useless recently, and I'm not too confident about him even against Everton. But Everton have been very poor in front of goal this season, so there is a little bit of hope. Any chance they'll give him the assist? Small chance, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I personally think they won't give it. Will the likes of Trent and Gvardiol be options soon? Yeah, I think they will be. That's why it might be worth holding on to Gvardiol, especially for those with Lewis and the Croatian, and I would certainly keep him instead of Lewis. Cucurella for Konate? Yeah, Cucurella's not bad. I think Colwell might be a little bit safer, but yeah, Cucurella could be okay. Once again, I'm not a big fan of Chelsea defenders per se, it's just their fixtures. Thoughts on Dalot and Solanke to Van Dijk and Joao Pedro for free? Looks good to me. I'd probably do it. Jackson or Pedro? If Jackson doesn't get booked tomorrow, I'd probably go Jackson, but we're talking about very fine margins here. Selling Mbeumo and McNeil, who should I bring in? I'd probably say Jared Bowen and Mitoma. Gabriel got rested for Man United since Arsenal already 5-2 up, maybe, and they didn't want to aggravate any potential issue, which he also felt against Sporting, but it's not something you want to see. I have to say, though, Kivior came on, You know, I was a bit nervous, but he did a very good job. Even made a last man tackle, so quite impressed by him. I think Arsenal defensively were quite shaky today. Gabriel was good, Kivior as well. The rest were quite underwhelming, even Saliba, but it is what it is. Yeah, I've been asked the Mbeumo question quite a lot. They could, but I don't think they will. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Buying Veltman is a poor decision with Lamptey back. He was going to lose his place anyway. Maybe you're right. It was a poor decision, but the fact he missed out entirely was a bit unfortunate in my opinion. And I also think Brighton fans would have loved to see Veltman start. And Lamptey was quite suspect defensively yesterday. My only returns are Strand Larson and Gordon so far. No Arsenal has killed me today. Yeah, I'm just happy I have Gabriel and Chris Wood. Otherwise, it'd be curtains for me this week. They've carried my team. But not having Saka has been a very big blow to my prospects, especially with the 30-40 point swing I'm talking about from last week. I mean, it's insane. I've already sold Isak. I'll talk about this in the team selection, basically. 8 Nuri to Gusto, Gameweek 17 is my plan. Yeah, that's sound. And you might argue Chelsea, you would have missed a lot of good fixtures for the Blues, but they've still got some good fixtures afterwards. It's a very good run for Chelsea long term. The alternative is to keep Mbeumo and Bruno, basically. I've done Wood to Jackson. I'd probably do that for now, mate. Haaland and Mbeumo to Jackson and Saka, or keep Haaland and get Odegaard? I would buy Jackson and Saka. Don't do it now, though, Mark Golich. Do it tomorrow after the Villa game if Jackson doesn't get booked, because otherwise you'll be buying a suspended player. Is this like a sell now? He's not a must sell, but I'm leaning towards a sell than a hold right now. I'm not sure how long he's out for. My guess he's available by Gameweek 15-16, but I've already done it. I'm taking a minus 28 to get Clover. Yeah, don't take massive hits like that. It will never be worth it for me. Can't believe you said Jackson over Pedro. It's kind of like a... Look, it's close. I just think Jackson's been very, very consistent. He's also not injury prone. And he's averaging 6 points per game in FPL this season. But I've said this for quite a while now. Timing is very important. And in the last 2-3 weeks, I've mentioned 4 forwards that I'd highly recommend. Isak, Cunha, Joao Pedro, and Jackson. And right now, I just think the rankings are so thin and the margins are so tight, but I would probably put Jackson a little bit above right now, going into Southampton if Jackson isn't suspended. I could be wrong, though. Bruno to Saka, yeah, I've done it myself for a hit. I'm only a few points away from 10k rank. Hope I make it finally. I managed to keep it. Yeah, I remember last year you were doing really well. Hopefully you can build upon that. Maybe learn things, but sometimes you just need luck, let's be honest. Bowenworth for -4 for Mbeumo. I had a similar dilemma. It could pay off, but I'd veer towards no. I'd probably just keep Mbeumo in that scenario. Yeah, I think Isak will be back fairly soon, as I just mentioned. Probably Gameweek 15, maybe against Liverpool as well. But with Wilson coming back into the fray, I think I'm a bit more concerned about Isak now. Southampton were robbed of a goal and deserved to win. Yeah, I think it should have been a goal, but it was contentious either way. And there were bad decisions both ways. You could have argued that Flynn Downs, the goal scorer, should have been sent off too. Would you replace anyone for next week? In my position, says MMK. It's just really the players you want to buy. So Saka would be on the agenda, right? But it's a good squad. Definitely start Sanchez, by the way. Don't start Sells and Aina against City. I know City have been poor recently, but I think they'll beat Forest. So I'd bench those two. I'd even arguably start Lewis over Aina, but that's definitely more contentious. Yeah, I think you're in a good position. Starting Mazraoui and Ahmed against Arsenal, perhaps not ideal to be fair, but what I'd look to do in your case is maybe Mbeumo to Saka. Keep it very simple, and you can use any remaining funds to upgrade one of Lewis or Greaves, potentially, and bolster your defensive line. I know, just saying Jackson because it's Chelsea, lol. For me, I hope he gets suspended. So do I. Because if he plays against Southampton, we could be looking at a massive haul. Yeah, Wan-Bissaka has been in great form recently, but I mean, West Ham just conceded 5. Nobody expected Wan-Bissaka to score in back-to-back weeks. He's got good fixtures now, so he might be a decent option on the wildcard. That's why I'm going to save the wildcard talk for that video. I'll have more time to think about it. The likes of Wan-Bissaka could enter that thinking, but at the same time, if you've got Fabianski already as your backup goalkeeper, I mean, a double up in West Ham defensively doesn't look good, no matter how you sugarcoat it. Is there a way to know at what price we bought a player? Yes, there is. If you go to the FPL website, and go to the transfer section, then just click on list. And there you go. You can see here, current price, selling price, purchase price. So that's the way to do it. I think you can do it on the app too, by the way. So hopefully that answers your question. Your thoughts on Bruno? Well, I sold him just to buy Saka, but maybe in hindsight, I could have just sold him Boomer instead and kept Bruno Fernandes. But I've just been all over the place with my transfers recently. So I'm just riding the wave, basically. I think Fernandes is a hold in a lot of scenarios, but I think it's justified to sell him to Palmer, Salah, and Saka, basically. Yeah, Callum Jr., as I answered earlier, I think they are going to be options in the future, especially Trent. Start one, bench one of Raul and McNeil. My preference would be McNeil, but not by much. I think Fabianski will play, but it's not absolutely guaranteed. I would start Fabianski just in case, really. Also, my midfield, Saka, Rodgers, Palmer, McNeil, Salah. It's a good midfield. I just think one of Rodgers or McNeil could be upgraded, and I'd rather keep Rodgers. So, yeah, definitely by Gameweek 15, I'd look to upgrade McNeil there. So you can go to the likes of Bowen, Mitoma, maybe Maddison if you're bullish on Spurs. Semenyo could also be a decent choice. But yeah, McNeil, definitely sell him in Gameweek 15. Replace Isak with Jackson this week or get Bowen for Bruno. I would buy Jackson if he doesn't get booked tomorrow. Isak and Mbeumo to Jackson and Odegaard, or Evanilson and Saka for a -4. Both good duos, but I'd go for Evanilson and Saka. Yeah, but the goal was blatant. In no way was he interfering with the goalkeeper. If else shouldn't have counted. I forgot versus who. Yeah, and I did mention that as well, Twister Parky. I think the referee made bad decisions on, with both of them. But yeah, I think Southampton will feel probably more aggrieved because it was a goal. Either way, look, referees are terrible. We all know this. I mean, even Anthony Taylor today, the first Arsenal penalty for me was not a penalty. And then the free kick that Emerson Palmieri scored, amazing, wow, we're getting so many goals, yay. But it wasn't a free kick. So yeah, it's just what it is. Yeah, Jackson's on 4 yellows, yeah. I've mentioned this a lot in my recent videos and streams. That's the main reason why I haven't bought him myself. And maybe I would have gone for him instead of Isak because of it, but whatever, it's done. What do you think about Jackson getting benched? I mentioned this briefly in this stream. I think Chelsea could rotate a little bit against Southampton, but generally speaking, they play their A team against any Premier League opposition, and they put their B team against Europa League, conference opponents. So we'll wait and see. I think Southampton could be a time to rotate, but Chelsea are also on the path to top 4. If they win tomorrow, they go to second, and they can't afford to drop any points. I think if they rotate in certain areas, and that could include Jackson, they could actually risk dropping points to the Saints. They were close to getting a result against Liverpool very recently. They got a point at Brighton, so they can't underestimate them too much. I think Jackson will start, but over this Christmas period, there will be rotation for Jackson and a lot of FPL options. There will be bench pain and you'll be questioning why you're playing FPL, but just stick with it. Thank you, Swadim. Bowen -4 for Mbeumo. I covered that earlier, mate. I said not for me. Sells to Sanchez -4. I think long-term it pays off, but I'm not a big fan of goalkeeper transfers, especially for a hit. No worries, Callum Jr. Thoughts on Maddison for Gameweek 15 onwards? Back in Gameweek 8 or 9, I did highlight Maddison as a buy. Going into this week, I said Maddison's a hold. I'm not that keen on buying him per se, but he has been one of the best midfielders in FPL so far this season. And if you are, very confident about Tottenham, I think Maddison's a decent entry point. So I'm not really too against that. Fabianski will surely start. Yeah, I think the main concern would be if Areola gets back into the mix and he's injury prone, then he's subbed off for Fabianski at half-time. We've seen that before. And then, you kind of just throw your goalkeeper points in the mud. But I think Fabianski starts against Leicester. Konate falling in price tonight. Should I risk with Joe Gomez or Slot could play Kwanzaa? I would not make a transfer just yet if you're planning to buy Joe Gomez or Kwanzaa. Wait and see who starts tomorrow, and that will give you a very good insight into the replacement for Konate over this Christmas period. Yeah, I think Cole was a good transfer for Konate. Of course, Wolfgamer, 50 points. If you got a green arrow, it's good. Top 3 forwards for the next 5. Cunha, Joao Pedro, and Jackson. Maybe not in that order. It could be Jackson first, but it all depends. I don't want to repeat myself, but it's very, very important. It all depends on the yellow cards. One more before Gameweek 19, and he is suspended. Yeah, Newcastle terrorism. 0.02 XG, and they scored And if it wasn't for Munoz in the 94th minute, yeah, Newcastle would have shithoused a 1-0 win. How about buying Jackson regardless of a yellow with Rodgers on the bench? That's fine. That's why squad depth can be very important in this period. I obviously had Semenyo suspended this week, but yeah, I think that's not too shabby. Is next week a free hit option with all the big hitters having more on the difficult side of fixtures and double gimmicks very limited this year? It's an option. That's a very good point, and not many people will mention it. And I think it's team dependent. You know, some people might still look strong going into 14, and you know, I don't like using a free hit when I'm kind of confident in my squad for a given game week. So I think I tend to use it really in a double or blank, or when my team looks absolutely terrible. So yeah, it's a good point, but it all depends on your squad and how many injury, suspensions, or problems you have. Like Diego Costa in the past, Jackson could avoid yellow and get big haul every week. Yeah, and last season Jackson went a very long while without getting booked. I mean, look, it might seem like I'm being very petty here, but against Arsenal, I think Jackson should have been booked in that game, but he wasn't. So sometimes you also need a bit of fortune and to avoid these suspensions. Hello, so one of Rodgers or Mbeumo, and for who? I'd rather sell Mbeumo because he's more expensive, poor fixtures, and he's underperforming. I would consider Bowen or Mitoma. I think Maddison's fine, as a lot of people have mentioned, but I think Bowen would be my punt this week. We found out the mystery chip in January. I don't know exactly when. What it's going to be, I honestly have no idea. Also, my defense, Gabriel, Mazraoui, Aït-Nouri, Aina, Gvardiol. It's solid. I think this week you'd start Gabriel, Aït-Nouri, and Gvardiol. But let's see if Gabriel is injured against United. I think he'll play, but who knows. Not sure who to sell, Wood or Wissa. I'd rather sell Wissa. But both of their fixtures are terrible. And even then, now that I say it, I still think Wissa can perform against Villa, Newcastle, etc. So it's a difficult choice. You might want to keep both for now, but then you might also miss some very big hauls from the likes of Joao Pedro, Cunha, Evanilson, etc. Start Kulusevski or Rodgers. I would start Rodgers this week. I think Bournemouth could get a result against Tottenham. With Pedro going up tonight, worth getting over Isak. I'm not sure Pedro goes up in price tonight, mate. According to livefpl.net, who are very reliable with price changes, they haven't put him there. And also, you're not going to be priced out in your case. I made early transfers because I rage transferred them in, and I don't recommend that. I'd maybe wait for Jackson in your case. I'm a Chelsea fan, but I don't trust Chelsea defence with Sanchez, hence why I prefer Liverpool defenders. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's completely reasonable. And I have mentioned Joe Gomez, who I think will start instead of Konate. We'll see tomorrow. Gabriel and Timber are my top suggestions for defenders in general. But I think in terms of cheap options, I am recommending Colwill. If Munoz didn't score, that would be literally the most scrappy win ever. 0 shots on target. Yeah, an own goal, of course, by Mark Gay. Can we have a Nicholas Jackson and a big C to celebrate 30k? Well, that wasn't a big C, but I think that will count. Thank you, Jacob de Lima. I appreciate it. Jackson and Sue, no, that's for a legend. CR7 is a legend. He isn't. Yeah, you hate Chelsea, and I don't blame you. Will Kluivert get rotated, though? I don't really recommend Kluivert or Schade, the two hat-trick heroes, despite obviously their heroics today. I think Kluivert could be rotated from time to time, but not in Game Week 14. After scoring a hat-trick, despite all of them being penalties, I still think he gets the nod. But he's not really a 90-minute man. He never has been for Bournemouth. So I think that's a good point you make. Do you think Isak will come back against Brentford? Yeah, I do. But I sold him, so I just want to dust my hands off, forget about that guy, and go in a different direction. Maybe what this will mean now, if we go back to fpl.team, so if I do something like this, so Saka and Joao Pedro, so for a -4 hit, then going into Game Week 15, I could then do Chris Wood if Jackson is available. And remember, he scored a hat-trick against Tottenham last season. I could do something like that. Buy Jackson for Chris Wood. I'd have enough money. I could even buy Isak back, which I might want to do. I don't want to talk about that one. And of course, Mbeumo would be another one I could maybe offload. But yeah, I've basically got a lot of money in the bank now with my 2 transfers in Game Week 14. Jackson will be on my priority list. My hope is that he's booked against Villa tomorrow, misses Southampton, and then I'll be happy to bring him in 15 or 16. So that's kind of where my head's at. But things change so quickly in FPL. I probably need to bolster my defensive line again Yeah, my defender transfers are just not good. With Isak playing only 20 minutes, should I transfer him out for the next week or for Cunha, or go for the original plan and transfer out Wood? My preference would be selling Isak. That's what I've done myself, but it's very close. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to it because we don't know how severe the injury is to Isak. Also take a -4 to transfer Aina out? Probably not. Now, if you have to start Aina against City, I do think Forest will concede 2 or 3 goals minimum, so you could make a case for a hit, and I think Colwill long-term pays it off, but he doesn't get you many bonus points or goals or assists, so he's kind of a boring pick, isn't he? Disastrous week, Borro, Raul, Son, Palmer, Salah captain remaining. Yeah, but you've got very good players tomorrow. I do think they can actually save you. 17 points, yes, it's not good, but I think you could actually maybe get a small red arrow or possibly even a green. Trust me, I think the players remaining are very good. What's happening to Newcastle? I don't think their team is excellent. I think they've got quality players like Isak and Bruno Guimaraes, but I think they do lack quality in certain positions. I think Eddie Howe can get it tactically spot on in certain games like Arsenal, but I just don't think they're a consistent team. They concede a lot of chances, and away from home, I mean, that's been an issue for the last couple of years. They're so strong at St James's Park, and on their travels, they're just a completely different team. Yeah, I wouldn't go... Trust me, I had Foden already. I bought him for Saka. I wish... Can I go back in time, please? Yeah, I wish I could do that. Been here since 5k. It's been quite some time. Yeah, that was like 2021, 2022. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Foden is bound to find some form soon. Would I be worth buying Larson now instead of Jackson? And Foden for Mbumo next week? I would not buy Foden personally, but maybe with City's fixtures coming up, maybe they can turn a corner. I'd personally buy Jackson. I know Strand Larson did very well today. He's a good budget forward. I've always said this, but I would rank Ivanilson, Joao Pedro, Welbeck, and a few others like Cunha even higher. What do you think about Semenyo and Kirkis to buy? Yeah, I think Bournemouth are worth investment, but I don't trust them defensively. Kirkis can get you the odd goal or assist. He obviously has done it in the recent weeks, but not that bullish on him. Maybe on the wild card as a 4th or 5th defender, but I wouldn't want to start him week in, week out, if I'm being honest. Semenyo is pretty decent as a 5th midfielder, rotating with your other attackers. Thank you, FPL Kevy. Cheers, mate, as always. What are you thinking of Arsenal? With Odegaard, we are looking pretty sweet. I mean, yeah, the last few performances have been brilliant. Big results, especially Sporting away, but frustrated, if I'm being honest, because Arsenal, I know they've had a difficult start with the fixtures, the injuries and the red cards, but it's the same shit with Arsenal every season, isn't it? They go on a run, you know, like as in 4 or 5 games without a win across all competitions. Then they go on like a massive streak, then it's not quite enough, then same crap, you know, in the transfer window, they don't do enough to really, you know, knock it home and get over the line. Hopefully they do it this season. I think they can. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic, but I don't know. I've supported Arsenal for over 20 years, and I was once an optimist, and I'm now a pessimist, and I do blame Arsenal a lot for that. Hopefully Bruno, Palmer, and Salah perform. Tom? Bruno, Palmer, and Salah, yeah, I hope so. I hope Bruno does blank in future weeks, though, because I did sell him. Mbumo to Bowen and Lewis to Kirkes, yeah, not too shabby. I do think Lewis outscores Kirkes next week, though, but long-term, I think Kirkes is a better FPL option. Bowen is a very good punt. If I was in a strong position, I'd be buying him in this week. Almost took a -4 for Timber and was thinking, nah, not worth it. I think long-term the hit pays off, but yeah, good that you saved it. I wish I saved my transfer last week. Should I sell Wood next week to Watkins? Yes, but bear in mind, Aston Villa could rotate with the Champions League coming up again. I think Villa could rotate and put Duran in one of the upcoming Premier League games. That's my gut feeling. I need at least 3 defenders next week. Got 2 free transfers. Who would you recommend? Gabriel Timber, just a long-term option, set and forget. Virgil van Dijk or Joe Gomez. Let's see who starts tomorrow in place of Kanate. Maybe it's Kwanzaa. And Levi Colwill. So that's kind of like the defenders I'd recommend, really. I'd recommend Jackson over Watkins if he doesn't get booked tomorrow. DJ says, how would you get back to Haaland with current Mbumo, Salah, Saka, Palmer and Fernandes? Well, I've sold Fernandes personally. And I am open to selling Mbumo, of course. That could be to Bowen or Mitoma, maybe a cheaper midfielder again. But at the moment, I'm not looking at buying Haaland. That could be an option. But it's the same thing again with Erling Haaland. It's about spending too much money in that player and relying on him to kind of carry your team. That's what happened with me at the beginning of this season. It was hunky-dory when he scored a hat-trick in back-to-back weeks. I triple captained him in Game Week 2. That's all good, but after that, if he doesn't really deliver those brace or hat-tricks, he's not worth the money. So there will be a time where Haaland will be very popular again, but at the moment, at least, I'm looking to go without him and just bolster my 50-man squad. Yeah, I think I'm going to get Iwobi and bench him for Rodgers during the difficult game. Sounds strange. Iwobi has been good, though. That's not the worst pun in the world. I personally wouldn't go for him. I think Matoma, Buonanotte, you kind of know my feelings. Semenyo, Rodgers are better, but he's not bad. I think he's pretty decent, actually. Ignore team value at this point, so there's a lot of transfers happening. Yeah, I made early transfers out of rage, basically. I just had enough about seeing Saka completely terrorise West Ham and the form he showed against Forest and Sporting. I'll probably jinx Saka, knowing my recent track record, but hopefully that's not the case. Anachronism says, I already did the transfer, Isak and Mbeumo to Evanescence and Saka for a -4. Yeah, I think it pays off. The only maybe regret you could have is if Isak is back available soon. And yeah, I think Isak will do well if that's the case, especially against Brentford and Leicester, Ipswich, etc. Sell Fernandes or Kulusevski for Bowen. I'd rather sell Kulusevski. Chances at Rodgers tomorrow meeting, meaning he's on 4 yellows, worth looking at. Rodgers is still worth looking at, just like Jackson. It's just, he's not a priority buy. I just think Rodgers is more of a hold for those that have him. You know, I agree. Just hope we can put up a title challenge. Yeah, it's just, I know Liverpool have been brilliant. You've got to give them credit, but I've always said if City, falter this season, it should be Arsenal capitalising, and they need to get it done one way or the other. Suhas says, I sold Haaland, Cunha, Robinson, Gabriel, and Garnacho, Saka for a -4. Need to change Flecken and Mbeumo, Wood. Who should I prioritise for free this week? I would probably prioritise selling Wood in this case, but he is still a very decent option who can tick along nicely in these difficult games. With Flecken's run, though, I think Brentford, I mean, who knows, if they keep a clean sheet all of a sudden, it'd be typical, right? But on paper, I think you can get much better goalkeepers like Verbruggen, Sanchez, Onana, and David Raya. I wouldn't buy Onana right now, though. Who should I buy to replace Konate for 5 million or less? I got 3 Chelsea players already. I still like a Brighton defender like Van Heck, so that could be a decent choice for you. Welcome, Adam S. Didn't end up taking the -4 hit, transferring out Gvardiol for Gabriel. Should have listened to you. Just joined your plans for Isak. Yeah, but look, I also said for some people I would take a hit to sell Strand Larsen to Cunha. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've sold Isak. It wasn't ideal. I wanted to keep him, and my original plan was to sell Wood to Joao Pedro and then buy Saka, but in the end, I've sold Isak. I'm going to regret it. I know Isak and Fernandes will now do well after I've sold them, but what can you do? I got on that Saka captain, fair play. I think he was a brilliant captain this week. He was in my top 4, I believe, but I did rank Joao Pedro higher, and I got that wrong. Do want to get a higher price mid. Was thinking Bowen, but I like to have funds for a potential Borro to Trent Gvardiol. Yeah, very good point, and that's where FPL comes down to prioritising and making a budget. I'd still go for Bowen as a punt, but it's not necessary. Like, you can still find a better option at a cheaper price, like Matoma, Semenyo, Rodgers, etc. Plus, need someone to rotate due to bench headaches. That's going to be very important in this Christmas period. Quick turnarounds, rotation, suspensions, injuries. It's going to be a very, very chaotic ride. Larson is doing the business for me, forget Cunha. It doesn't make up, though, for the last 4, 5, 6 game weeks, but it is obviously a step in the right direction for you. Ori says, Dylan, as a Liverpool fan, I respect Arsenal and the way they play, of course. Sometimes I hate things like shithousing and crying, but it's normal for every club, but your fans are the worst. For sure. I mean, everyone's got their own opinion, right? I would probably say Arsenal, Liverpool, and United have the worst fan bases on Twitter. You can't really generalise a fan base based on what you see on X, the Bird app, or on YouTube, because it doesn't represent everybody. So I'd probably urge you to reconsider that. Should I hold on to Nuri? Yes, I would hold on to him. Would I look to buy him in right now? Not necessarily, but I'd hold him. Saka with a lovely 36 pointer. Nice one. Great captaincy haul. Outscored my team. Roman Jarvis says, if you had to rank Mazraoui, Joe Gomez and Ricolos over the next few game weeks, if Saka is available, My head is fried. If Joe Gomez starts tomorrow against City, I'd probably put him first. Mazraoui second and Lewis third. Yeah, I mean, technically it's called X now, right? And we've also got Blue Sky, whatever that's called. My captain is Wissa. Your opinion? Decent, mate. A lot of people captain Joao Pedro or somebody who blank, basically, so it's better than nothing. We'll wait and see what Salah, Palmer, and the rest do tomorrow. Chelsea's among the worst. Yeah, I agree, but once again, you can't generalize a whole fan base, right? Yeah, Twitter's just toxic, I mean, if we're being completely honest. Sean Horgan says, Wood and Wissa coming in this week for owners, deserved after the Cunha and Pedro pay in the last few weeks. Yeah, and I always said with Chris Wood, do not sell him against Ipswich. The same goes for Aina, Sells, and all these players. But now, Gameweek 14 and beyond, I think both players you just mentioned, Wissa and Wood, are sellable. I transferred Aina for Timber. Is that a good transfer? I'm guessing you... Wait, is this for Gameweek 14 or 13? Either way, I think Timber is a better option long term, so that will pay off. I wouldn't have done it against Ipswich, though, in Gameweek 13. What's your prediction on Liverpool game? Yeah, I went for the same scoreline. 3-1 Liverpool. Salah with 2, going to be interesting. I just hope somehow City can get a draw. That's my perfect ideal result. And I think they can do it, but yeah, without Rodri, it's looking tough. Had Pope in goal and also started Munoz, no clean sheet, but Munoz came in clutch. Well, that's the ideal scenario when you've got a late clean sheet wipeout. The player on the other team getting the goal for you. It could have been much worse for you. Do you think Mbeumo is a must-sell? No, he's not a must-sell. Is he disappointing recently? Yes, I've said this many times with the return of Wissa. That's kind of coincided with a downturn in form for Mbeumo. But he's not a must-sell, no. And personally, I'm going to keep him against Villa and start him. I don't think singling out Arsenal fan base is fair. You could chuck in some Chelsea. You absolutely hate Chelsea, don't you? Some are so entitled, but I don't think all are like this. Yeah, look, a lot of Arsenal fans, you know, moaners, maybe entitled and stuff like that. But what about Real Madrid, Barcelona? I mean, every fan base has a very toxic part of them. And I think social media really intensifies it. Yeah, for sure, my friend, that support Arsenal are not as bad as them. Hope we can see a great title fight. Would love it to be us, of course, but importantly, not City. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Arsenal will give it a go. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm just frustrated with Arsenal because it's always a cycle where they go on winless streaks, then go on a massive run, and then fall short. Don't do enough in the summer, rinse, repeat, and I'm sick of that cycle. Hopefully they can kind of break it and actually get some titles on the way. Bench boost this coming week. Depends on your teammate. It really does. And rotation could be a factor. Suspensions, injuries. Don't count your chickens just yet. Especially if you have Jackson and Rodgers tomorrow with the suspension risk. Sell Fernandes or Kulusevski for Bowen. I'd rather sell Kulusevski, as mentioned earlier. I think Trent could be a decent purchase, actually, but Virgil van Dijk might offer better value for money. And Joe Gomez could be the cheapest, entry into that Liverpool defence. And if Trent doesn't get bonus points or assists, you might feel like you're spending money al pedo for no reason. Tess says Mbeumo to Odegaard for free or downgrade Robinson or Smith Rowe to fund Saka as a -4. I would take the -4 hit, mate. Honestly, Saka's that good. Roman Jarvis says if you had the funds to go from Mbeumo to Son for free, would you make the move? Son's still a good option, but I'm not so sure about him. I'd actually rather go for Maddison right now because he's cheaper, and those extra 2 million could help you buy Haaland in the future or buy Saka, Palmer, Salah, maybe Trent at the back. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on this. It's a good transfer, but I think I'd keep Mbeumo. For now, anyway. Can he do the Gabriel celebration? No. He's taking the piss out of Gyökeres for some reason. And by the way, I like Isak a lot as a player, but very injury prone. And as a result, I'd probably rather buy Gyökeres. I think injury records are very important. What do you think about bringing in Emerson or Kerkez in Robinson's place? Yeah, I'd rather buy Kerkez out of the two. And another one you might consider is Wan-Bissaka with goals in back-to-back games. I'm not a big fan of Bournemouth defensively, though. Even West Ham, I could say the same thing. It's difficult picking out defenders. I think that changes every single week because apart from Arsenal and Liverpool, who is reliable defensively? And even with the Gunners, conceding twice today, they're not the most secure defensively at the moment. Yeah, most importantly of Isak, an injury. And I bought him last week for a -4 hit. It cost me 40 points, basically. 30, 40 points, not buying Saka. Yeah, FPL is an absolute shit show sometimes. Would you sell Wissa or Mbeumo first for Gameweek 14-15? Probably Mbeumo based on recent form and the positions they occupy. But then again, Sharda played up front today, and Wissa was kind of pushed to the wing, so it's also not ideal for him. I can name a fan base that was in Holland recently that I would say is the worst, but I'll leave that there. Oh dear, does the Parky sending the shots? Casper says, best Isak replacement that's not Joao Pedro or Cunha. Jackson, if he's not booked tomorrow. Won with Bruno over Saka last week, lost out on 30 points just on a last-minute decision. Now Bruno playing CM. Same here, Finley. I'm in the exact same boat as you. I also bought Isak, injured, -4 hit, bought Veltman yesterday. Yeah, I'm not going to do that sound effect again, but you get my drift. Don't worry, we'll share the pain, and hopefully things look better now. I just bought Saka for a -4 hit. What could possibly go wrong, mama? Marseille not great either. Yes, I've heard a lot of bad things about the Marseille region in general. You know, they've got some nice beaches and stuff, great weather, but pretty rough, I've heard. Then again, I know nothing about it, so what am I going to comment about it? But that's what I've heard. Is it better to have Jackson over Palmer to free up money? On current form, Jackson's much better, but one more yellow, suspended, and I think Palmer needs 2 more before that's an issue. But I still think Palmer is the best Chelsea asset, personally, and we could see a change in opinion after tomorrow's game. Should I use my free hit this week? If so, what do you think? Honestly, mate, I'd love to answer this question, but I don't know your squad, so it's difficult for me to answer it. If you've got a lot of injuries, suspensions, and you're just sick of your team in Gameweek 14, but it looks good afterwards, then yeah, play the free hit. But I just don't know. It's difficult for me to say. Even though I've had an incredible start, the Saka haul still makes me hate the game. Not taking this game seriously is a big skill. Yeah, normally I'm quite good at that, but I think the last week or two with the transfers flopping, the -4 hit, the massive swings, I think, yeah, it's kind of it's not ideal. I took a -8 this week, but didn't want to sit on so much money after benching Haaland. Not paid off so far. Joao Pedro, Palmer, and Saka. First hit I've taken, rank 254k. Wait, but you bought Saka though. That's brilliant. So that would have resulted in something. Or am I misunderstanding that? But yeah, if you bought Saka for an 18-point haul, you've got Palmer tomorrow. Great fixtures until Gameweek 21, 22. Joao Pedro's an excellent choice. Yeah, that's good. Don't worry about it. What do you think about Foden in a few weeks for Mbumo? I'm not going back there. I just sold Foden. That's obviously not paid off. Bought Foden. That didn't pay off because I sold Saka. I think City could go back on the right track eventually, but until we see it, I think it's probably best to avoid and just see how City navigate this period and if they can find the right formula. I'd keep Mbumo for now. Do you think Joe Gomez and Quansah rotate? Great question. I think that's a possibility, but I think Joe Gomez is first choice. I think one key reason why we could actually see Joe Gomez not start tomorrow is because he's also a very versatile player, and Arne Slot might want him to be that kind of backup to Trent at right back and also play on the left-hand side if needed as a third choice left back. Mbumo out for who? I think the top 3 at a similar price would be Jarrod Bowen, Mitoma, and Maddison. But I don't think you need to sell Mbumo. That's my current take. He should have got the assist today. FPL got it wrong, but not the first time. Should I use my free hit? Yeah, once again, I don't know your team, so. Kluivert penalty hat-trick is crazy work. He set a Premier League record in the process. Kanata injury kind of hurt me a lot in my defence. Luckily, Aina came in clutch. Yeah. I backed Ipswich Town. Did I back them for a clean sheet? I think I said 2-1, to be fair, but I did recommend holding Aina, Sells, and Chris Wood this week. They are sellable now, so you might still need to make defender transfers, but it's good to see a return on the board. Oh, Bakao, you made my day. I mean, he made my day from an Arsenal perspective, but FPL-wise, he actually caused the red arrow for me so far. I think it could turn into a green tomorrow, but we'll wait and see. What was Isak's injury? I think it was like an impact injury, so he kind of felt a bit awkwardly. He carried on for like 10 minutes, but he had to be subbed off. It might be precautionary, but we don't know enough about it. I personally think he'll be back very soon, so either against Liverpool or the following game. My gut feeling would be Gameweek 15 against Brentford. That's when he's back, and he will probably burn me again. Was it serious? I mean, there is a chance that he'll miss a game or two, but I personally think he will be back very, very soon. Crazy amount of points on Kevin from Brentford, yes, but I would not be looking to buy him now with Brentford's fixtures, although some of them, like Villa and Newcastle, could be quite good for their attackers. I'm on 38 points, 6 green arrows in a row now. Yeah, decent score, great trajectory, keep it up. Thoughts on Wissa? Same as what I said last week. Hold against Leicester, sellable afterwards. He's not a must sell, just like with Mbumo, I still think Brentford attackers could offer some value, but I wouldn't be looking to buy him. Are you going to roll? I took a -4 hit already. I don't recommend doing that, but I made rage transfers. Isak was hip related, I read. Yeah, you could be right. I haven't been able to see much in terms of that injury. Might be a crazy question, especially after them holding 5, but start Verbruggen or Fabianski. I think West Ham have a slightly better chance of a clean sheet against Leicester. I think Fulham will score 1 or 2 against Brighton, but Brighton are a much better defence. So, good question. I don't think it's crazy to ask. I'd probably favour Fabianski too. Best cheap defenders, Levi Colwill, Van Heck, Kirkes, Lewis Hall, probably the 4 best ones right now. Couldn't afford Cunha, so got Larson. Well, at least it paid off for you now, Gary, and you also bought Saka, so fair play. Top captains for Gameweek 14, Palmer. I'd still put Salah right up there for me personally, but I think Palmer's the standout. Saka on his current form is obviously a very good option, but I'm actually going to say Jared Bowen as a differential. Let's see how it goes. So, just to kind of recap, Palmer, Bowen, and Salah. Not in any particular order, but I think Palmer would edge it in first place. Thank you, Ori. Love to chat with you, Dylan. Almost 3 years, I think, since I joined my first stream of yours. Still going strong. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you very much, Ori. Enjoy the football tomorrow. And yeah, thank you very much for your support. Start Raya or Fabianski? I'd probably favour Fabianski. I think Arsenal concede. Yeah, quick turnaround. Not ideal for me personally, especially the next week or 2 in particular is kind of hectic, but I'll try to get all the content out. I might record a wildcard video very soon, but I can't guarantee it. But basically, the plan is to upload the wildcard and transfer tips on the Sunday, Monday, and also the team selection on the Monday too. Then, of course, the deadline stream on Tuesday. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Use your fantasy content for match day 6 also in the following week, and game week 14, game week 15 over the weekend too. So, yeah, it's going to be a mad one. Yeah, Timber, but I was asked about budget defenders. He's 5.5. In UCL Fantasy, he is cheap though. He's 4.4, 4.5. Sell Son to Saka or Mbeumo to Bowen next game week. I would rather sell... I think Mbeumo to Bowen might be slightly better. I think Son could offer you something against Bournemouth. Ultimately though, buy Saka if he can. Why is he still the West Ham manager until now? Well, I think the Newcastle win would have bought him a bit of time, but before that, I think he was under massive pressure. Top 5 keepers next 6-8 game weeks. Sanchez, Verbruggen, Raya. I'd still possibly put Onana in there just because of the saves potential and the bonus points. Opinions on Dunk? I think he'll come back in for Igor Julio, but Van Heck is the safest Brighton defender. Start Joao Pedro or Vardy? Joao Pedro. I think the best thing to do is remember there's many game weeks left and maybe we should take some risks and get high ceiling players for hits. Yeah, good advice. I think you've made a very good point, but I took a hit last week and it cost me 30, 40 points. So it can lead to a lot of points gained, but it can also go the other way. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors that play a part. Manager bounce under Van Nistelrooy. Yeah, maybe. And I also said earlier, I think it's a good appointment actually. It's risky, and maybe Moyes would have been a better, safer pick, but I think Van Nistelrooy, if he can keep them up, could actually push Leicester into a very good position next season. But let's wait and see. I think hits are so underrated in FPL. It can get you transfers ahead of money from price rises and get your team ahead of the curve. Yeah, look, hits can definitely work out. Even a -8, in some cases a -12. But when people say, should I take a -20? I tend to say no, because in a lot of scenarios, it's not going to pay off. Best 5.3 mid, probably Buonanotte. Best 4.3 defender. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of 4.3 defenders. There might be somebody out there. I'll have a quick look now. And we'll also draw things to a close, as I have been streaming for quite a while. Yeah, 4.3... I mean, yeah, Mikolenko with the upcoming fixtures. Unfortunately, I'm going to say no there. 4.3... Joachim Andersen, of course, injured for a couple of weeks. That's obviously not ideal. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying my absolute best here, but it's not looking good. I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe... Do you say Wout fast and kind of hope for a manager bounce for Leicester? But even the next kind of 8 game weeks are very mixed bag. They've got some good fixtures and then some terrible ones as well. Uh, yeah, you're probably just going to stick with the 4 million defenders there. Todibo? Maybe Todibo? I'm honestly not a big fan of those 4.3 and belows. You're kind of just about missing out on Hall, Kirkes, Konsa even, and all these budget defenders who are somewhat worthwhile. Just hoping over Christmas my rivals have a busy family Christmas and forget to do the team. Sometimes forgetting to do the team, though, can result in points gained. I found that out the hard way in FPL and UCL Fantasy over the years, so be careful what you wish for would be my advice. Thinking of flipping Salah to Haaland with free transfers to captain. That would be very bold, especially if Liverpool batter City tomorrow. I wouldn't recommend that right now, but you could be right. When Alisson comes back, I'm putting him straight away over Raya. Yeah, the only concern is Alisson's quite injury prone for a goalkeeper, but Liverpool are better defensively than Arsenal so far this season. But then, how will Konate's injury affect Liverpool? That remains to be seen. Should I sell Bruno or Mbeumo for Bowen? I sold Bruno Fernandes personally, but I think probably the right call is to sell Mbeumo, in fact. Could we get Maddison nailed at Spurs by now? No. I think he starts against Fulham, but we've seen that recently. Subbed off early, sometimes on the bench. I don't think he's nailed on. Every time I get Sanchez, he is so bad, though. Yeah, and of course you know him very well. Flecken or Fabianski? Fabianski next week. Which defenders do I start? Aït-Nouri, Gvardiol, Mikolenko, Timber, Gay. I would start Aït-Nouri, Gvardiol, and Timber. Selling Mbeumo to Mitoma for a -4, not for me. Yeah, Todibo, I mentioned him briefly. He's the only one, apart from the obvious Vandenbergs of the world and Jacob Greaves, and I wouldn't recommend Vandenberg now. Palmer, Wissa, Salah, Saka, Rashford, Rodgers, Raul. Do I need to change for the 14th week half round? You don't need to, but I would probably sell Raul Jimenez to Joao Pedro. Why did Rutter start this weekend? Well, he's started a lot of games for Brighton recently. He's a good player. Obviously had that kind of injury concern during the game. We'll see if it's all good, but I think there will be a time where he could drop to the bench and you see Minter or Adingra on the right and Joao Pedro in the middle, so I don't think he's nailed on. But that price and below, he's one of the better options in the midfield. Just saw the conference on Isak's injury. It's not a muscle injury or anything, just contact. Yeah, I sold him already. Probably going to be another mistake of mine to add to the very embarrassing list. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Isak will be available soon. No worries test. Do you think Odegaard is a better option than Bowen or Son? Odegaard's a good option. He's been brilliant since the return from injury, but I'd rather buy Bowen or even possibly Son. I think the best way of covering Arsenal offensively is with the obvious Saka. Took a -12 for Saka, Gabriel, Timber, Cunha and Pedro this week. Yeah, I mean, the Arsenal boys kind of saved you there, but I think all of those moves will pay off. Obviously, Timber was disappointing, but Gabriel getting a goal and an assist, despite the early sub, that's obviously a very decent return. And Saka 18 points, I'd take it, mate. Isak injured, yeah, very frustrating, don't get me wrong. Nice one, YVR Guna, 81 points, 3 players left, and 2 of them are some of the best options in the game. You could get 100 plus, so enjoy it, and that's a great rank rise. Going to get Jackson in for Watkins, Gameweek 17, doing it late could backfire if Watkins gets rested. Wish me luck, I guess. Yeah, it could definitely backfire. It's just that yellow card risk with Jackson that puts a lot of people off. That's why I recommend to people, keep Jackson. I don't know why people were asking me about selling him in today's stream and yesterday. In Liverpool, chip shop tomorrow, Man City getting battered. I hope not, to be honest. I hope City get a draw, but yeah. Why do you recommend not selling Bruno? Because it's a very small sample size in terms of him playing deep. I sold him myself because I just wanted to buy Saka in at all costs, and I might end up regretting it. And to be honest, don't be surprised if I end up taking a -8 hit this week to bolster my defensive line or buy Jarrod Bowen. I'm all over the place with my transfers recently. But hopefully after this kind of storm, this kind of rocky period, I can weather it and, you know, start getting the green arrows again. It's a very small red arrow, by the way, for me this week. It's not, you know, curtains, but basically losing out on 30, 40 points due to a marginal decision can be frustrating. Is Wood a sell now with the fixtures? Yeah, he's more of a sell than a hold, and I said that in this week's Transfer Tips podcast. Gabriel's a freak of nature. Opponents can't handle him during corners. I agree. He's a complete beast. Probably the best player in the world at set pieces, you know, at the moment, and he has been for the last couple of years. He might even set Premier League records for a centre-back. Do you think Wan-Bissaka is a good replacement for Aina? Yeah, he's okay. Don't expect him to score another goal, though, anytime soon. But he was quite good on the ball against Arsenal today. Very impressive, actually. Took his goal very well. Excellent pass by Carlos Soler. Arsenal were quite poor defensively, but Wan-Bissaka, you have to give him credit. Rutter's been so he could hit the post as well, but Minter back and more Adingra minutes would be nice. We need more width to open up blocks. I think that's a great synopsis. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. Can the mystery chip be that we get Saka's West Ham points come on FPL? Make it happen. If only, mate. Unfortunately, hate to disappoint you, it's not happening. United defenders are still okay in terms of rotating with your other options. I would not be banging them in now against Arsenal and Forest, although a clean sheet against Forest is not, it's not impossible. Mbeumo to who, if not Bowen Matoma? I recommend both of them, but Maddison could be another one. Got 9.1 to spend. I mean, Foden would be a nice punt. That's really risky, but could pay off. I bought him back in Gameweek 9. That was another disastrous transfer I've made this season. Yeah, I'd probably stick to Bowen, Matoma, or Kudus. And if not, Maddison. Mbeumo to Matoma and Dibbling to Bowen for a -4. I'd personally keep Mbeumo this week and just do Dibbling to Bowen. But maybe you aren't able to afford Bowen without selling Mbeumo, and in that case, I'd probably take the hit. Nice 161 points, Saka captain, and Wood and Aina, really good stuff. Is Saliba a good pick if I don't have the money for Gabriel? Saliba's fine, and so is Timber. But Gabriel, for me, is the best one. He's got the goal threat. He even got an assist today, winning the penalty, because West Ham couldn't deal with him from set pieces. Let's see how serious the injury is. Raya in goal. Arsenal aren't that strong defensively, though, this season. In my opinion, they just always look like they can concede a goal. I know West Ham scored 2 brilliant goals today, but I also look at Arsenal and feel they could have done better. Serious note, still not got a clue what the chip could be. I don't think anybody does, but it's kind of good to guess, I guess. Best Canate replacements. Gabriel, if he's fit. Any Arsenal defender could also enter the bill. Calafiori, Saliba, but Timber might, steal it, I think, over the others. I think Colwill as a budget defender, set and forget. Virgil van Dijk if you're still bullish on Liverpool. And you might even want to go for Joe Gomez if he starts tomorrow, or Kwanzaa, depending on who gets the nod. Mystery chip, quad captain, or maybe the all-out attack chip. Who knows at this point. Busy couple of days for you, yeah, and it's going to be mad because I need to find time to record the videos, especially during the week, but hopefully I can get it done. Yeah, I'll probably have to record 2 videos tomorrow, a video on Monday morning, and then just hope for the best, pray. And I also need to pray for the FPL returns. Didn't watch the game. Can you tell me about Timber's involvement going forward? Not his best performance. I think, apart from Gabriel and Kivior, I think Saliba, Calafiori and Timber were quite shaky, especially Calafiori. But Timber has been very impressive at right back whenever he's played there. He creates chances, puts in some good crosses in the box, and links up very well with Odegaard and Saka. Also makes those overlapping runs. So I think Timber's a decent punt, but you won't get the goals and assists from him compared to Gabriel, and that's quite clear. Forest fixtures will be hard from now. I think Aina is more of a sell. I've said this for many weeks. Keep him until Ipswich Town and then sell. Bruno and Joao Pedro or Semenyo and Watkins? That's a good question. Probably Semenyo and Watkins. What would you do with Delap? Not sure on him. With good fixtures coming up though. He's decent, but I'd probably urge you to go towards the likes of Joao Pedro or Welbeck, Cunha and Evanilson. I think they're all better options. Even Strand Larsen might be slightly better, but that's definitely debatable. I'd certainly recommend the forwards I've talked about in my wildcard and Transits podcast recently. Strand Larsen was a buy a couple of weeks ago. I did say that, but Cunha has always been my preference, and I still maintain that belief despite what happened today. Thank you everybody for tuning in. It has been a blast talking to you for the past 2 hours. And yesterday, we did a 3-hour deadline stream as we hit 35 subscribers. Let's keep on pushing towards new goals like 31k and beyond. Let's get this stream to 200 likes and even more. That'd also be appreciated. Check all the links in the description, like my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. Also my Patreon and the championships by clicking the join button on YouTube and going to patreon.com/DylanRCM for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, just to support the channel even further as well. Thank you to Stapaki. I'll see you very soon. Thank you, Beardy. How come Saliba doesn't get the headed goals? I just think Gabriel is much better in the end than Saliba. We will see Saliba get a goal or two this season with Arsenal set pieces, but Gabriel is always the biggest threat. He's probably got a better jump on him. His timing, he's also got the aggression. Saliba might lack that a little bit, but yeah, I think Saliba's still decent. Roll the transfer with my defense being Fabianski, Colwill, Gabriel, Todibo. Not ideal, but probably. You're going to have to hope and pray that West Ham keep a clean sheet against Leicester. I'll be honest though, I don't want to burst your bubble, no pun intended, but I think Leicester score under Ruud van Nistelrooy. I need a 3.9 defender to get Saka. Would you go Quansah or Burgess? Well, probably Quansah in this case, but I don't think he starts tomorrow. If he does though, he might hit some gold, and you've got a very cheap entry point to the Liverpool defence. Thanks for sharing the pain this stream, Dylan. Good luck for the rest of this game week. Likewise, I still think I can get a green arrow, by the way. But once again, it's losing out on so many points due to what I thought was a 50-50 call. Maybe it wasn't. Who should I get? I have Gabriel, Aït-Nouri, Robinson. I would recommend Colwill, or maybe a Liverpool defender like Virgil van Dijk / Joe Gomez. Let's see who starts tomorrow against City. Thank you, Stan. Is Havertz good for 7.9? I have Jackson already. Yeah, Havertz is good. I just prefer Watkins, Isak when he's fit, Joao Pedro, Cunha, and a few other forwards like that. But Havertz is good, and with Arsenal's upcoming fixtures and their form, goals in back-to-back games against Sporting and West Ham, you know, Havertz's record up front for Arsenal is actually quite impressive, especially in this calendar year. But there was a drop-off this season. Arsenal obviously struggling a little bit recently, but they are now back on track. Let's see if they can put the pressure on the title leaders, Liverpool. Tomorrow's game will be very exciting. We'll also learn quite a lot in FPL. Could we find a cheap entry point in terms of Joe Gomez or Quansah to replace the injured Konate? How long will Isak be out for? All of these questions and topics will be covered in my future FPL videos and live streams. Stay tuned. There's a very small turnaround or short turnaround, and the plan is to get the transfer tips, wildcard, and team selection videos out for you on the Sunday and Monday, and then the deadline stream on Tuesday. And all the use of your fantasy content for Matchday 6 is also headed your way. So take care, everyone. If you've got any other questions, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and use of fantasy content.